This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we've got a beautiful hot afternoon around us with quite a breeze in the air. We've returned to this area that we were this morning in search of that mother cheetah with her cub, hoping to find them sometime this afternoon. So far we have had no signs, but what we're thinking of doing is probably looking around the shaded areas. You know, as I said, it's quite hot, so I would expect her to probably be lying somewhere in the shade this afternoon. So that's what we're going to check while we're here. And we just want to welcome you to your live safari, live digital safari from the African wild. Just taking in this beautiful scenery around us. You know, this is often the way that we're going to find these animals. Sometimes it's better to stop and have a good look with your binoculars around, check in all those shaded areas and just listen. You know, there's a lot of sounds out in the wild that will sort of indicate to us where we need to look. So what we're listening for are things like alarm calls. I'm sure most of you have heard monkeys alarm calling, or impala or nyala. Certainly they're going to be the first sign that we have of a predator in the area. They do all do quite an instinctive alarm call. Otherwise, we're going to be driving along these roads. You can see the road ahead of me. You know, any other soft patches, we're going to be looking for tracks of this mother and her cub, see where, if we can maybe get an idea where they are. So my name is Kim, and behind the camera we have Owen, and we are going to be with you this afternoon. So our plan is to check the open areas that are quite close to here. So far no signs of her, but like I said, I think she's lying in the shade somewhere. Earlier she was looking a bit skinny, so it's a possibility that she's taken advantage of the middle of the day to actually go and see if she can find some antelope. So we're going to be going from open area to open area. We think that's the most likely place she's going to be hunting or resting, especially with that very young cub, trying to keep herself as safe as possible. So that is our plan for the afternoon. If we don't find any signs around here, might go into another area that we were this morning, a little bit later on in the drive, and see if we can find other cheetah. But right now we're going to send you over to Ngala and see what they have in store for you this afternoon. Welcome back. We're still having a good look around these plains, but it's actually such an exquisite scene to show you a little bit of our Phinda landscape. You can see our mountain range in the distance. That's our Lubombo mountain range, which is one of the most prominent features that we have here at Phinda. And you can actually already see the change in habitats from this vantage point. You can see just in front of the mountain range there, we've got that beautiful open plain. That's where we had yesterday afternoon, in fact about 24 hours ago, there was that cheetah that we were really concerned about because there were quite a few leopards in the area. We haven't seen her since, but I'm sure she's okay. She's quite an older cheetah, very experienced. And as you can see how it gets thicker all around here, one of the most magical things about Phinda, which I absolutely love, is that we've got 7 different habitats. And even from this vantage point, we can see at least 3, our open grassland, our riparian woodland, and our mixed Labombo woodland, which is like the combination of these grasslands and smaller bushy areas. And it makes for a huge diversity in what we get to look for. So not only a diversity in birds and animals, but also just a fantastic change of scenery from one drive to the other. I always say, if you drive here 20 minutes in any direction, you can kind of see the landscape changing around you, which is absolutely magical. We're going to carry on searching for these cheetah, but in the meantime, Pridelands have managed to find some rather big animals that hopefully will give you a bit of a show this afternoon.
You've joined us here as we watch this rather medium-aged elephant bull feeding on the short, luscious grass here on the open plains just to the opposite of our eco-training camp. And it's a wonderful afternoon. The sun is finally out. It's a bit windy, but it's a lovely day. So happy to be here. You're joining me. I'm Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is Seb, and this is Eco-Training's Pridelands Conservancy. And that young elephant bull is deciding that that grass was no good, and he's now moving off. This is a nice clearing. This is where we always seem to see lots of animals, from warthogs to impala, zebras, wildebeest, everything, and all the rest. And this elephant is literally just walking along slowly, sniffing away at all the different patches of grass. You can literally see him walking from one bright green patch to the next. So each of these bright green patches that the elephant seems to be feeding on is an old impala midden. So it's where impala males left all their dung. Oh, there's a branch in the way there. Sorry, Seb, I've not parked in a very good spot. But each one of these little green patches is where an impala midden was. Lots of impala dung, which as the rain falls and the dung breaks down, it creates a little patch of nutrients that makes the grass very, very nutritious and tasty. The elephant seems to enjoy that. And it's been at the mud wallow. It looks like it's got a bit of mud on its back. So it's been at a waterhole earlier because it is quite hot, although the wind is all of a sudden picking up, which I'm quite surprised about. It was very nice and calm a bit earlier, but you can see there it's still very hot, and so that mud on the elephant's back as it dries will create a cooling effect as the moisture evaporates. And of course a protective barrier from both the sun and insects, which now that the temperature is a bit warmer, there's plenty of both. So nice to see. Finally, I feel like the sun is a rare sighting over the last week. It's been very cloudy and very cold and windy and miserable. So I think most of the animals will be very happy to see the sunshine again. See the branches moving there in the strong gusty wind as this elephant starts to move. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move us forward a little bit to see if we can get another view of it as the elephant
You gotta level the camera. Welcome to Tswalu. Good afternoon. You with some eland. You're with. Oh, sorry, I'm moving too round. Yeah, they're probably not going to stay there for very long, so I'll be quick. My name's Deirdre, and on camera with me this afternoon is Darby. And we're heading out west to go and investigate one of our Calcrete Pan waterholes. We are at a very toasty 34 degrees, 93 degrees Fahrenheit, and where did they go? It's just the dust cloud. They might be coming, they're coming across the road. They're coming across the road. Watch them. Nice big group of eland. And that's it. There's normally always one that's behind. That was a nice show. They ran over the road when we came over the dune, and now they've changed direction and they've run back that way. So you're looking there at the largest antelope in southern Africa. Let me just go forward a bit, and maybe we can get them again in picture. So I wouldn't know why anyone would want to run at that speed in this heat. It is unpleasant. Both Darby and I have our collars up. because it is exceptionally hot today. So the rain it's only 4% chance of rain, probably not today, but definitely Monday, Tuesday, looks like it's going to potentially rain here. I had them there, Darby. They've unfortunately ran through a blackthorn thicket and they're on the other side, so all I can see at this stage is literally just the tips of the horns. You got them. Oh, they're gone. Yep, that's it. They're gone. But we're going to head out west. We'll just have a look. All these brown veined whites that have been flying over the last few days. So, Marco, you asking how much can an eland bull weigh? Well over a ton. Some of them even up to a ton, 0.300, so 1,300 kilograms. They are exceptionally large. And the next largest antelope behind them is the roan antelope, which just pushes probably 250 to 300 kilograms. So quite a big difference. I mean, a big eland is the same as like a black rhino or a young rhino. You can just sort of put those two together in comparison. That's quite large. So we would be looking for, oh, there we go, this is Sable. I'm just going to stop here so we don't move him just yet. He's on the left here, in front. A nice Sable bull with, you almost want to say 1.5 horns, because neither one look like the graceful, sweeping horns that they normally have. I know his right horn, our left side on the screen, is a normal horn, and then the other one is broken. So that probably from fighting. The bulls can get quite aggressive when fighting over females. So known as the horsehead antelope, between the sable and the roan, they fit in the same family. I don't know if you're quite seeing a horse head there, but that side profile gives you an idea. And what I find quite strange with their skull structure is that from the horns, it literally goes straight down in front of their eyes and then their nose. They have a very sharp angle from their horns down towards their eyes and across the nose. So you can see he isn't in a very shady spot. I mean, that camel thorn's probably only about 1 meter high. Oh, he's going to get up. He's thinking about it. So while that Sable's thinking about getting up, we're going to send you to have a look at some elephants at Ngala.
Good afternoon, and we have sunshine at Ngala. It's so cool. It looks like the elephants are also a few animals that are celebrating. This one, being so dark, has just come into the water and was splashing about. He's finished his swimming and he's actually following a herd of elephants who's slowly moving into the bush. So as he disappears, my name is Eric, and behind camera, as always, is BK. There's his thumb. And we decided to come to this sport for exactly this reason. It's the first time within the last 3 days that we've had some sunshine, and it's actually heated up incredibly quickly. And so we thought there's a good chance of exactly that happening. And fortunately, it seems like we got you as they were moving off. It's always awesome to win the water. But they're not the only animals that have arrived around here. If we pan there, we've got some knob-billed ducks, those white and black-looking birds. And then if we pan all the way to the very end of the water, we've got a nice big group of waterbuck and a group of impala who are all resting in the heat of the day. It's actually quite a prime position for them to be in because it's nice and short grass, so they can see any suspicious predators coming their way. And so the majority of that herd, I think, if you look closely, they might all have horns on, so they are a group of bachelors. There's even a wildebeest I've just seen directly behind the impalas on the right-hand side, and then a couple of waterbuck further off to the right. And then every now and again we see a youngster of an impala and a waterbuck that seem to be having some sort of interaction. It looks like they're playing around at the very end of the water. So we've seen elephant, impala, wildebeest, waterbuck, and we've got a hippo in the water. as well as several different bird species around here. So it seems like the animals are starting to come out, and hopefully from here we can start to see some fantastic animals for the afternoon. Both Beak and I have got a very good feeling about today. It's always exciting, especially after gloomy, rainy weather, to have a bit of sunshine and just see what the reserve is looking like. So knob-billed ducks, Egyptian geese, white-faced whistling ducks are here on the side of the water too. So quite a variety of bird species around here. We haven't quite decided what we would like to do for the afternoon, but I think sticking around waterholes like this and the dry riverbeds of Ngala is probably our best bet to spot as many cool different animals as we can.
I spy with my big brown eye. So the Sable didn't go too far. He got up, he went 20 meters to the next tree, and he's standing in the shade, and he's literally standing about 5, maybe 6 meters from us. We're like right next to him, and he hasn't budged at all. So moving in the heat costs energy, and they lose too much moisture doing that, so they are very hesitant to move in the heat. But we were actually looking, we zoomed in there, look how thick that mane is, and then we zoomed in to have a look at the eyelashes. He's got the most amazing eyelashes, and long eyelashes when he moves his ear. That would be nice. Sorry, can you just move your ear? Thank you. There you can see how long those beautiful eyelashes are, and then also that blunt straight from the horns down into the eyes, and then that sort of sharp angle change into the nose. Those long eyelashes will also help keep sort of dust and sand out of the eyes. And then sort of the white and the black on the face to enhance facial features, but then also reflect heat and reduce glare. There's a nice, you can see the little muzzle and his chin with his little whiskers. Oh, hello. Hello, big guy. Nice big brown eyes there. So you also noticed there when Davy went up the horns, you noticed all those little ridges on the horns. So the oldest parts of the horns are always the tips of the horns, and then they will grow from the base. And those ridges on the horns, when two bulls are fighting, those often either slow them down. He might actually lie down again. They'll slow each other down from trying to hurt each other. And the way that Sable will fight is they'll actually go down on their knees, and then they use their horns in sort of a side-to-side sweeping motion. And they don't look like aggressive antelope, but as far as I've read, this is actually one of the antelope that was one of the first things to actually kill somebody in the Kruger National Park. In the very, very early years, somebody to be wounded or killed by an animal was actually a sable bull, and they came across it by surprise, and I think that they may have cornered it, and he landed up killing that person. So they can be very, very dangerous. What's the small head relative to the neck? So the horn breaking like that, the only thing I can assume, because it would have been already quite well developed if you see how thick that base was, would be from fighting another male. So look at that. That's just beautiful. Good camera work, Davy. It is helpful that he's only 5 meters away, and he's just decided, well, I'm going to lie down back here. We obviously no threat. This is the closest I've seen a sable bull in the Kalahari. He just doesn't seem to be bothered by us at all. So Billies are was asking the question, does a horn grow back? And the answer to that would be no. Only antlers grow back. So antlers from the sort of North American, like the deer and that, they shed their antlers. Those then grow back on an annual basis. But all the southern African antelope have horns that develop right throughout their life. So their horn grows throughout their life, but they don't grow back once it's been damaged. It'll carry on growing from the base, but it won't suddenly start getting a new tip or a new area. And there's actually a solid bone that goes sort of a central bony inside in that sheath. So it depends on whether he turns, so we can actually see that broken horn where you actually see a portion of the bone sticking out the top. So sometimes they don't like lying in the shade of some of these big trees because there's actually sort of, it's called a sand tampan. It's a tick that somehow senses that there's an animal there and then comes out and crawls all over them and bothers them. And you can see the louse flies on his neck there. Maybe, Davy, we can go in. There's 4 louse flies on the neck. We keep talking about these louse flies that are sort of like a biting fly. I think the Sable that we saw this morning got bitten by one, and it certainly made him speed up his movement along the edge of the dunes because he was being bitten by one of those. That's a really, really good view of 5 louse flies. 6 now. Look at that black hair, just absolutely beautiful. Anybody want to know anything else about a sable? Because he is the most cooperative sable. So send your questions to #WildEarth at FC. So AC's question is, are sables solitary? So on Tswalu, we have predominantly bulls. It was part of a breeding program, part of a conservation program. But you would normally find them that a bull would be in a herd of anywhere between sort of 10 to up to even 30 females. So sable herds can get quite big. And they, at the age of about 3, the bulls then get pushed out of the herd and they must go and be either on their own, so that's the time when they'll be solitary. Sometimes they find companions and you have bachelor herds of bulls up until one is mature enough to take over a group of females themselves. So it depends on the time of their life when they would be solitary. But yeah, with having a broken horn like that, it does put him at a disadvantage when it comes to fighting. So he's likely going to be a loser most of the time that he fights, which means he wouldn't be able to take over a group of females. You can actually see the white part of the bone on the inside there. And all those beautiful ridges. Look at that detail. So, you know, sort of sable in Africa in South Africa in particular, probably about 20 years ago, their numbers went to really, really low. And it had a lot to do with water provision in certain game reserves where then suddenly there were almost too many lions and the lions were grabbing the sable and they had a very sort of unsuccessful breeding. And then they started to put them in breeding camps and build up the numbers from there. So they're a very healthy population, probably well over 20,000 or more individuals now, but they believe they went right down to about 600. So they've done a huge conservation effort to bring this animal back. And there is a known as a giant sable up in Angola, if I'm not mistaken, and there's always concern about mixing the two bloodlines, so they're quite specific about whether it's a sable or a giant sable. And obviously Angola being one of those war-torn countries, they don't actually know what the status is of those animals. Beautiful, beautiful. So at their biggest, if you're looking sort of at their largest, 51, 52 inches across the horns. So I believe everybody's commenting about how beautiful he is. I'm amazed. He is beautiful, but he's the star of the day for sure, because He is so close, so relaxed, and he really is allowing Darby to get some awesome camera work in there, because they don't sit still this close that often. So enjoy. Just such detail in that face. No, he's... Rachi is asking a question, are sables territorial? Yes, the bulls are very territorial about the females. If there are no females around, the bulls will happily get on, no problem. They can encounter each other and they go on with their day. But if it is a territorial bull, they can fight quite seriously about that. So yes, the bulls are territorial. So he would be, with sort of a muzzle and a nose structure like that, predominantly a grazer. They do like what's called an open woodland. They would typically like more grass, because sort of a half grassy area, but more woodland, and that's so that they are able to hide their calves. Obviously not in his situation, he's not going to have a calf, but in the female situation, they do like to be able to hide their calves until their calves are more mobile, being able to follow them. So a really, really nice rare antelope. Artu's asking a very interesting question. Where does the name Sable originate? I know that the sable that a lot of other people are familiar with is more like a mink, or more like a sort of a mongoosey type of creature. So I don't know if it has to do with the sable color, because the females are sort of a brown color. So it might be as a result of the color that they named it after the coat. But if anybody has a better answer than that, please do share. I don't know if that was a head shake. I don't know if he agreed with us or disagreed with us there. He's got one little lousefly on his chin there. So Ryan is asking the question, is it easy to distinguish a male from a female sable? And the answer would be yes. They both do have horns. The female's horns not as prominent as the male's. I'm going to have to come here, Davy. I'm just going to try and put it still for you. So not the easiest, but you can see the brown coloration. So more of a, so this one, yeah? Oh, sorry. There we go. I'm making camera work difficult for Darby. So there you can see that sort of a rusty brown color, and that's quite likely where the name Sable comes from, is that sort of sable coloration in the coat. So very pretty, but also horns, but not necessarily as sweeping back or as thick horns as the male. So we hope he enjoys his snooze in the shade. We're going to carry on heading out to the waterhole, and we'll give you an update from there.
Welcome back. So far we've had no signs of those cheetah. We actually heard from some of the other rangers that they might have been headed in this direction. And then we came across this beautiful watering hole. We thought we'll just sit here in silence for a little bit and appreciate some of the birds that are coming down to drink, and hopefully some animals.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the other half of Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name is Lauren, I do have Johan on camera, and it's an interesting day because on this side, to my right, we have absolutely glorious sunshine, blue sky, it's wonderful. Not very hot, and then as we start to move towards the north, it changes dramatically. You'll see that. And it looks very, very dark and cloudy with the promise of rain on the horizon on our northern side. So it's very confusing. I don't quite know how to interpret it. So we took our rain roof off anyway, and I hope, well, that I didn't make the wrong decision. So, I don't really have any plans today. I already know that the Nisikaya, aka the hyena den, is not active. I already have that information, so I think we're going to go into the Mulwati. I haven't been in there for a while. Check up on the Wahlberg's Eagle Chick and see what else we can find. I know that, as I mentioned this morning, everyone is furiously looking for spots. Not of the hyena variety. So I'm sure we can scratch around for spots and assist everyone at the same time. So I'm going to head into my dry riverbed and we're going to send you guys across to Mike with an active lizard.
What we have here is a giant plated lizard, and this particular one is quite long. It's probably about 40 centimeters long, and now it's slinking away into the grass. It's a bit camera shy, but what it's doing is it's catching termite elates. The termite, reproductive termite that flew out last night are now walking all over the ground looking for a soft piece of ground for them to burrow into, and this little giant plated lizard, or this rather large one, is taking full advantage of these fat, little energy-rich termites. It's trying to catch as many as possible. This is a very interesting little reptile because it's usually living amongst the rocks where it can quickly scurry into little cracks to hide itself. And with its girdled scales, which means they have a sharp edge, they push themselves into the rocks, and it's very impossible almost for anything to pull them out again. They wedge themselves in like a grappling hook. Now, what's interesting is they're also quite often herbivorous, which is quite unusual for reptiles. Well, for lizards anyway, these will often eat flower buds. But you see right now it's eating whatever is the most abundant and highest energy food. So it's literally just running around eating all the termite elates. It's amazing. See how it avoids the ants. Ants are not what it wants. Ants can spray formic acid and are quite bitter in taste. Termites have no chemical defense, and they just got these little fat bodies. And these fat-bodied termites, the reason why they look so different to normal termites is because they've got an energy store in them that gives them time to dig a burrow and start laying eggs before they have to start eating. So termites normally have to go out and collect massive amounts of dead plant material and then cultivate fungus underground, whereas right now they just need a fat body full of energy and reproductive material so they can mate, dig a hole, and start laying eggs to start making termites to tend the colony. So that's really awesome. I've never seen such a nice view of a giant plated lizard, especially out in the open like this. And we were talking about it earlier, Seb and I, how because it's nice and warm today, these lizards can be very active. Time Walker, I'm glad that you're seeing this for the first time. That's amazing. It's not often that we get to see this lizard out in the open. As I said, it's nice and warm today, so the lizard is out and about using this open area where the termites are. There's no termites on the rocks because they can't burrow in there, so the termites are all walking on the sand looking for soft places to start burrowing. And as I said, this one is normally in the rocks where it can quickly run into a crevice and hide itself, which is super interesting. So it's nice that we can keep seeing that. Sorry, I thought I heard something behind us. I thought I heard cracking branches. I thought the elephant. We had some elephants just now. We're right next to Ndlovu Dam, and so I thought the elephant was coming back to try and visit us, but it is not. There's so many animals out today. There's so many small insect-eating animals, from these lizards to birds, and I'm sure there's lots of insects that eat these things as well. So I'm just trying to see. I can see a red-billed buffalo weaver that's also hopping around on the ground. That's a seed eater, though. It doesn't often eat insects. But many things that in the books will say does not eat X, Y, or Z, but then we've now started observing them eating certain things. With modern techniques and the fact that we can stay with animals for a long time. Oh, there goes another one. Yum, yum. We can see at night with infrared cameras. We can sit with animals for a long time. There's another termite behind. He's going to go straight for it. Watch that. Yum. Amazing. So, see how the termites hold their abdomen, try and curl it up a little bit. It makes them look a little bit like a scorpion. Not very much, but a little bit. And so, it might just deter something, thinking that, oh, there goes another one, that this is a scorpion. And now you can see in front of that lizard, there's lots of little things shimmering in the sand. Those are all the wings of the termites. So they emerged from the termite mounds last night when there was a bit of rain. Oh, there goes one who had just landed, unfortunately, right in front of the awaiting mouth of this giant plated lizard. Now, so they all emerged last night, flying about looking for other termites to mate with. Then they would land somewhere and try and burrow in. And during the flying and the burrowing, they actually lose their wings. The wings are useless once they've found a mate. There's no point in having wings anymore. It just uses too much energy to fly around. So once they land, the wings fall off and they try and burrow down basically wherever they land. They don't have an infinite amount of energy, so they can't just walk too far. And also because everything's trying to eat them. So they have to really get underground as soon as possible. Over the next few days, we're going to start seeing little brown spouts all over the sand, roads, everywhere, which are basically where the termites have tried to dig in. Now the vast majority, maybe 95%, 99% of them will not make it, unfortunately. But luckily they get released in their millions, if not billions. And so if even just 1% of them makes it to creating a termite mound, it is hundreds of thousands of new termite mounds. It might even be less than 1% actually, because when you see how many get released, it's amazing. There's a termite right in front. It can't see it though. The termite has escaped. Did you see that? The termite was right in front. He managed to avoid being detected. It's busy digging right by some green leaves. Well done, termite. Good job. So yesterday, all the way from our HQ, where we leave the vehicle at night to charge, all the way back to the eco-training camp, it's about 2 kilometers, there was a thick cloud of these termites flying. And then I went into town even, which is another 2 kilometers away, and there were still clouds and clouds of termites. So that means that there's probably some sort of, chemical or some sort of trigger. So the moisture in the air, the warmth maybe, I'm not exactly sure. Perhaps when other termites start erupting out of these mounds, they release pheromones, which cause the other termites to also start releasing the aelates, the other mounds. It's very interesting, and I don't think it's very well understood yet. It's really fun to see. I've never seen a lizard out so long like this. Now it's also very dangerous for this lizard. It's taking a risk here. There's plenty of food, lots of energy, but there's also a high chance of getting eaten by something like a bird of prey. So it needs to, eat while it can, but, stay close to cover. And right now it's nowhere near cover. Well, something that would eat this lizard is a kingfisher, and they've got a couple of them at Djuma.
I am so jealous of that sighting. Feel sad for the termites, but I'm very jealous. Reptile and termites, my favorite. But I am rather lucky. Here we have a brown hooded kingfisher. We had the pied this morning. We can always hear the woodlands. I think this is the male. I'm pretty sure it's the male. Oh, how we know that is, of course... Oh, there he goes. He's catching insects, hunting. He's just there. 11 o'clock. You see him? There we go. Now, I actually mentioned this morning, but not all kingfishers eat fish. They're not all fishermen. The sort of name kingfisher is a little bit misleading to that whole group of birds. And the brown hooded even. eat mainly insects. And that's exactly what this little guy is doing right now. The male has a black shoulder on the wing. The female has brown. It's really easy to tell them apart. And, oh, hello. And they'll eat all sorts of organisms, from small reptiles that they can pierce with their beak. It's like skinks, very small skinks. They've even been known to eat very young birds, and I'm talking about chicks. Fish, if they can find it, but they will not necessarily always around the water bodies to go and dunk themselves in and collect fish. Crabs and rodents. Yes, very small rodents. That's what a brown-hooded kingfisher will eat. For being such a small, beautiful bird, they have a very varied carnivorous diet. Isn't he gorgeous? You see him tilting his head like that. They're using their keen eyesight. They're highly visual, and you can see he tilts one eye. I don't know why I can't talk today. And he's just solely using the vision out of one eye to make sure it's very acute and detailed, and he can spot the insect, swoop right in and catch it. Now, they're monogamous, as most birds say they are. So normally the female or the male, the other half,
drinking at Ngala Dam
is nearby, not too far away. See, he gets a better sort of idea of what he's looking at when he tilts his head to the side. When he looks straight on, not only is that huge beak in the way, his binocular vision doesn't sort of give him perfect, accurate, detailed information on the exact location, and that's why they tilt their head like that. We have some babblers babbling away in the background there. Can you hear them? I think it's the arrow-marked babbler. Why me? I have no idea. I really don't know, I'm afraid. I don't know the lifespan of individual birds. I will try to find out for you, though. He's listening to the babblers. I know, they make such a racket, don't they? I'm being informed by FC that brown-hooded kingfishers can live up to 9 years, but I don't know where that information comes from. Jarrett will tell me just now. And apparently it lives 1 year longer than the woodland kingfisher. I don't know if that's a Wikipedia statement or a factual statement, but there you go. It's quite a long lifespan for a bird. And in swoops. Oh! Jared is telling me it comes from the Biodiversity Development Institute. Thank you, Jared. There you go. That is the lifespan of a brown-hooded kingfisher. Sounds very accurate indeed. we're never to rely on good old Wikipedia. Okay, that was such a lovely Kingfisher sighting. I'm sure we'll see more as we go into the Mulwati. But for now, you guys are going to head over to Kim with the mixed herd.
Welcome back. So we certainly have a beautiful scene that we've come across this afternoon. As you can see, we've got a wide array of animals right in front of us. We've got quite a few zebra just off on the right. There's some warthog and some wildebeest, blue wildebeest. And as we pan off left, you're going to see some more wildebeest, some more zebra, some more giraffe, and just out of sight we've had a rhino as well, white rhino. There's these amazing scenes that you come across, so serene. You just see this beautiful movement of the grass as the wind blows through, almost dancing in the wind in front of all these animals, and this variety of wildlife, and a whole lot of different birds that are flying around here as well. We just had a yellow-billed kite and a martial eagle soar over. Martial eagle even gave us a little call, which was beautiful. Absolutely majestic afternoon. It's amazing to see quite a few of them out, even in this heat. As I've said before, it is quite hot. You can see that there's some wildebeest in the distance that are lying down the shade, but the vast majority are actually still out feeding. You can see all the zebra at least, mainly feeding, a couple of the warthogs and wildebeest as well. And the giraffes, a few of them are feeding on those trees, but another two are standing just out in the open, busy ruminating. Patricia, it is beautiful scenery. I have to admit, I'm really enjoying this drive this afternoon because we've just been driving and we're stopping at the smaller things and taking it in. Here we go, actually, I think we've got an African harrier hawk that's flying over the scene just on the left there. See those beautiful colors. You can see that really dark gray. And as it flies over, that white prominent band in the tail. So it's busy searching probably for a few lizards or maybe a few insects that are scurrying around in this grass. As I said, a big variety here. It's just a really stunning afternoon. All the animals are out, slowly feeding. It's very calm, lovely breeze. Wonderful afternoon to be out in the bush. And I especially like these little open areas here. So as you can see, there's quite a little bit of sort of changing levels in the land, which is quite interesting. You can see there's a small little drainage line right in front here. And I've actually witnessed, funny enough, that same cheetah that we were looking for. No, sorry, it was a different cheetah, but a cheetah with one cub before used this exact sort of change in the levels of the land to stalk up to an impala right in these open areas. And this, a lot of the time you have guests ask you on drive, what is your favorite moment, or what is your favorite sighting, or something that you've seen that really stands out. And in fact, this exact area is where I saw a cheetah kill that will forever be in my mind. There was a big puddle of muddy water right in front of that island off to the left, and we watched this cheetah use this slope of the land to her advantage, stalk up to an impala that was right on the outskirts. And she had a cub that was about 1 year old. And she chased the impala and managed to actually pull it down, but the impala managed to get up and run straight towards this muddy patch, and then the cub actually pulled it down in the mud. There was this huge big splaying of mud everywhere. The mother had caught up. They're both completely covered in mud. And then the impala got up again for the second time and ran up that island. And then she managed to grab it in the air and pull it down. And it was just unbelievable. You can imagine being in a high vantage point. Sometimes it's so much more beautiful to watch these animals from far and sort of see the whole scene kind of come together or unravel in front of your eyes. Oh, there's just going to have a look at that tiny little foal there. You see there's 3 zebra, and there's quite a young foal in the front. Just before we saw you came back to us, that foal was being quite playful, running around and kicking. And Lauren also has another baby animal of by herself, so we're going to send you straight through to her, and we're going to carry on looking for something else in these open plains.
We have a whole family in front of us. There's a tiny little one trying to latch on and is struggling. Every time Mom stays still, it just latches on with this little pink mouth. We're in the Mulwati. It's such a lovely place to be, to see elephants. Oh yes, I know, Mama. If your heart doesn't melt when you see a baby elephant, then I don't think you're human. This is another mama, very swollen mammary glands here. Look at that. Can you see this little youngster, Johan, playing? I don't know if we'll be able to see it. Oh, well, he's a boy, that's for sure. In case we were wondering, that's the answer. We've got some up ahead as well. And no other living mammal exceeds the elephant in shoulder height. Not even the giraffe in shoulder height we're talking about. And there was an elephant bull from Angola. I'm probably going to pronounce this horribly, but it had a name. I think it was Fenikovi. Apologies for the pronunciation. And it's now in the National Museum in Washington, D.C., but it measured just over 4 meters in shoulder height, as well as some other male elephants from Namibia. 4 meters. And I'm sure the heaviest bull ever recorded, and this is only on record, of course, was around 6,500 kilograms. And it's a very heavy being. Go? Hope I got that wrong. Young elephants remain in milk for about 4 years on average, but they can go on to solid food, which is obviously vegetation, and it'll be the softer vegetation. The woodland kingfishers are not stopping. It'll be the sort of soft grass or leaves. It won't be a winter diet when they're that young, but they can go on to solid soft food at around 6 months. But they can stay in milk for up to 4 years. And they have milk tusks just like babies, just like we do. We have milk teeth. I'm going to go forward and try and catch up with them. Young elephants also have milk tusks, which they lose and then get their adult tusks. Oh no, oh dear, Lauren took her rain roof off. It's really not a great decision, Lauren. Don't feel the rain, we might have to go back to camp. But we're going to catch up with this just up here. But 4 years is a very long time on top of a 22-month pregnancy. That's an extraordinary high level of maternal investment in elephants. 22 months. Okay, I'm just going to stay far away from this big grey bottom. I think the herd are on both sides of the Mulwati. And if you just look, it's so lush here. So many different types of grasses. Some will be palatable, some will not be. The trees are all full. The evergreens and the deciduous trees are all full of lush green leaves. The food source is so plentiful, really. It's a perfect place for elephants to be. They can also dig into, here we go, we can also dig using their trunk into the sand in this dry riverbed and find water. It's actually quite easy to do. Hello. You have some grass in your mouth. She's eating it now. So young elephants, they stay with their mother very closely. They do remain in milk for up to 4 years. It's a very, very close relationship. And for female elephants, it's all about becoming a mother. Your entire sort of life is all about learning how to become that mother. There's a lot of culture in elephant herds, a lot of learning, not only about the environment, but also about how to be an elephant, and especially for the females, how to be a mother, how to be a wonderful mother. The herd life is all about guarding, rearing, and teaching. The most sort of intensive mothering happens in the first 2 years. So from birth to 2 years old, the mothering from a cow is very intensive. And then once the youngster gets to over 2 years old, it does start to lessen a lot. And they're a little bit more stronger and independent, but they will still suckle from mum. Females do allo mother. So just like we talk about allo grooming in lions, for example, or impalas, they do allo mother. It's kind of like nannying. They'll all spend time with each other's offspring. They'll all look after each other's offspring. Not allo suckle, but allo mother. It's probably one of the factors that leads to their success. Ryan, you're asking about the temporal secretions. You're asking if it only happens during must, which is that temporary state of madness displayed in bulls when they're ready to mate. No, females will also secrete. You can see this female here that's just walking off. She's got sort of dried secretions running down from her temporal gland. You can see that dark patch. It's linked to emotion. If if you like. And when elephants are very, very stressed, they'll secrete from their temporal glands. When the bulls are in must, they'll absolutely secrete there. Their temporal glands actually swell when they're in must, and it's painful. But they will also secrete when they're happy. So say a herd's been split and they reunite, or maybe when two kinship groups meet and they're very happy to see one another, they will also stream from their temporal glands. So it's not just when an elephant is in must. It's normally linked to emotion. I firmly believe elephants have emotional lives. I believe actually most animals have emotional lives. Well, that's the drizzle on. Those dark clouds that were confusing me is no longer confusing. We are going to have to put covers on our car very shortly before everything starts to get extremely wet. I think it's safe to say I made the wrong call. So you must forgive us. We need to cover our car before the equipment does get wet, I'm afraid. We have rain covers. Luckily, already ready. I didn't pack them away. I kept them out because, well, I was clearly suspecting that we might get some rain. There we go. So I'm going to put my covers on. We're going to send you guys to Deirdre and Tswalu.
I put it. Hey. Welcome back to Tswalu. We still haven't got to our westerly calcrete pans just yet, but we're not too far. We're nice out in the sort of flat dune areas out in the west, where a lot more grass, a lot more eland bean, but small camel thorns, and then we get the shorter little light-coloured blue-grey bushes are known as the grey camel thorn. So you can see the sun. Whoa, Darby, hold on. This is one very ambitious aardvark that's decided to dig holes right in the middle of the road, and that one caught Darby and I out the other day, or it caught me out. Darby's just an unwilling participant. Well, he's a willing participant, but when I throw him around a bit on the car, it becomes quite challenging. So here we go. We can probably show you this one if I don't want to squash the mole rats. Now it's a choice. Which way do we go? Let me just go this way, and then we can see how much he's been digging. And I'm actually going to jump out quickly and see if he's been here recently. No, that one's collapsed. So when they dig, so just to give you sort of a size, if I hold my arms out like that, you're probably looking at about that size, which if I had to hug an aardvark, he'd probably be about that wide and that round. So I've got my sunglasses on. It's been quite bright. But he'll dig, or he or she, they both dig, their body width to get in and out, in and down. And with those sharp claws, they're capable of moving over a meter of soil in a minute. So think about that, a meter of soil in a minute. I've snuck up to an aardvark before and I didn't really realize we were that close. Their hearing is good and their sense of smell is very good, but if the wind is not in their favor, then they don't hear very much. And it was probably from where I'm standing to the hole's distance away from this aardvark, and it was feeding, and the guide that was next to me just stood on one twig, and it just went, and that aardvark lifted its head, it went, just took in a big gulp of air through its nose, looked up, saw us, and thought, I'm out of here. And it was 1, 2, 3 bounds into the closest hole. It just dived into the hole. Something similar to this scenario where some of it had collapsed, and it just started digging. And when we were on this, we sort of walked over to have a look. The soil was flying out that hole higher than we were standing next to the hole. That's how much of a hurry it was in to get underground. And then eventually all we could see was the tip of his tail, and we could hear him heavy breathing. It was like he was probably saying, that was a close one. That was a really, really close one. But that is the closest I've ever been to an aardvark, was about 3-4 meters. And yeah, he was completely and utterly surprised. So if I look at patterns here, he might have been here recently, but it looks almost like some tail markings here, here, and here. If you give me a second.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephants, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. But absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
We've managed to catch up with the rest of the herd, but they have gone up this steep slope, I'm afraid. It's a really large herd. Lots of females and lots of youngsters. Now, many people ask, who's the matriarch? They always think it's the biggest female, and generally it is, but not always. You shouldn't be fooled to think the biggest female is the matriarch. The oldest female will be, absolutely. But she might not be the biggest. There's a wonderful book called Beyond Words that I've spoken about before by Carl Safina, and it researches elephants a lot and their social behavior, especially with regards to the matriarch, and it's not always the biggest female. You need to watch a herd before you can conclusively 100% say who the matriarch is, because all the other elephants tend to gravitate around her. She's a central figure, and if you just watch them for long enough through observations, you will see that they really do sort of gravitate around that central figure that is the matriarch. So the matriarch, being the oldest, has the broadest cultural knowledge. And she uses this to lead the herd. It's a big role. It's not just a case of being the boss or being aggressive or maybe scolding the youngsters. It's leading the herd to safety, to greener pastures, to areas with water during drought, teaching them that knowledge, the environmental knowledge that they map in the brain so that they can then pass that on to the future generations. Migration routes. They won't just go to an area that's maybe flourished and it's very green and it's got delicious food that isn't constant. They'll take their herd to traditional, reliable sources of water that provides for them year after year. Same goes for food. The death of a matriarch can mean the loss of knowledge and ultimately care for everyone. It's devastating when a herd loses their matriarch because her knowledge is so critical to the survival of everyone. Her survival knowledge, her cultural knowledge, her environmental knowledge, and it must be passed down. We often think it's only humans that have culture. That's not the case. Even crows, monkeys have all been shown to have culture. And it benefits the herd to follow the matriarch. It profits the herd. She shapes their daily lives. The daily lives of every single member in the herd is shaped by the matriarch. And that, therefore, it affects their health, their body condition, thus affecting their survival rate and their reproductive success. Everything. The matriarch is involved in every aspect of their survival. But I mentioned earlier it's a big role, and it is. She has to balance. She has to balance the needs of the family members to ensure that they stay together. So maybe one day there's conflict between individuals, especially boys. It's worse if it's females. Maybe one day some members of the herd want to go left, the others want to go right. She needs to balance the needs of everybody. And mothers that have very, very young calves under 2 years old actually have to drink a lot more water in order to maintain their milk production. So therefore there will be females that demand to go to water more often, and that can cause conflict. Something simple like that. The matriarch has to make the decision. No, everyone, we are going to go and get water. It's important. Or no, we'll go and get water later. She has to put up with everyone's demands, everyone's tantrums. That can't be easy. Okay, I think we're going to pass this herd and continue our river cruise. But we're now going to send you to a surprise in a tree at Ngala.
We decided to come past another small pan, and we were lucky enough to find this little critter in the branches. And so very, very white at the moment, but you can see some markings around the eyes and the face, and you can just see that throat moving up and down, and it's trying to cool itself down. And this is a frog called a southern foam-nest frog, or a grey. There's quite a few different names I've heard. Grey tree frog or grey foam-nest frog. Quite a few different names that it's called, but foam-nest frog is the general name, I guess. And especially at this time of year after rain, if you've been watching WildEarth frequently over the last couple of weeks, you might have seen these really big balls of white, especially over puddles. And this is the species that's responsible for them. And so he or she is just waiting for it to become a bit darker and cooler, and that's when they'll start to get active. And you never know, it might just be waiting for a male or a female to actually start the process of foaming that ball, and then the eggs will be laid inside and then be fertilized. And the reason why we decided to come past this waterhole is the bird species this season around this pan have been phenomenal. And so there's been some very special birds. And I might just back up a little bit so we've got a gap and we can scan into the pan itself. And we can see if we can spot one or two of these special birds. We can start off with one of the bigger ones, which is off to the left, and we might just get smaller and smaller as we see. So around southern Africa, not too much of a hard bird to identify. This heron. But as we pan slightly more forward, I mean, we've got an African jacana that's in the reeds over there. So there it is. Just look at the features of this bird. That beautiful blue head, that chestnutty color, and the white on the throat. And just look at the size of its toes. And so those toes are designed to cover as much surface area as possible. So it's capable of walking on top of these little lilies and plants within the water itself. And so it can move into the water and look for insects and things that it might prey on. So a bird that I saw here quite recently is a bird called a lesser moorhen, which I'll keep an eye out for. And then we have been seeing views of the rufous-bellied heron, which is a fantastic bird to see in this area. It's quite a rarity. We first spotted it in the very beginning of November, and we've been seeing it sporadically ever since. And then if we pan quickly, BK, just to the right of it and up into the bushes, there's a little white dot that's quite well hidden. So into that bush directly behind the jacana, if you zoom straight into the center of frame, there's that white dot. And so that is exactly what I was talking about. That's one of the foams of the foam nest frog. And so in there at the moment should be eggs that are incubating and hopefully hatching soon. And when the tadpoles get older, they'll jump straight into the water, and they've got a chance of surviving because they're a bit bigger. So this waterhole will be perfect for larger animals, things like elephants and buffaloes. And apparently there's already buffaloes at a different waterhole.
Patience has paid off for us as we sit here and watch a group of nearly 100 buffaloes coming down to the edge of Ndlovu Dam. Some are drinking, some are mud wallowing, being serenaded by the woodland kingfishers and the soft light of the setting sun. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's a big bull watching us through his ladies. Howdy. They are the same buffaloes. We saw this herd this morning down in the southeastern corner of Pride Lands. It's called Buffalo's Hook. It's a very big open sodic area where they probably were resting during that rainy, sort of miserable weather we had. Now the sun's out, they've decided to venture further and started exploring. And they have to drink every day, or they try to drink every day. And now that it's warm, they can mud wallow as well. We've seen lots of termites, and if there's lots of termites, it makes sense that there's probably lots of other insects, like mosquitoes and bitey things. So the buffaloes are fully aware that they should cover themselves in mud if they want to avoid that. Some of them actually using their horns to dig in the dirt in order to loosen up as much of this mud as possible to put it onto their bodies, and some just lazily standing in the water, letting it cool down their body. They've walked not very far, maybe a kilometer from where they were this morning, but it was rather hot, and walking through the tick-infested grasses, every now and again they'll get cuts and scratches from the branches and thorns, so it must be just very soothing to be in the water. This is a fairly young buffalo here, not very young, but you can see his boss has not got that heavy bumpy granulation on the top there, and there's a bit of fur even on that thing, so you know that it's probably in his prime, not yet one of the ones that we would call a dugger boy, those old buffalo bulls that very rarely follow the herds. See, this one here looks like it wants to use its horns to maybe dig up some of the mud, like some of the others are doing. Well, it's actually just drinking at the moment. Nice set of horns, and there's a female. We're having lots of questions about how to tell the difference between males and females. And this is a female. Sonia, that's a good question. We actually had this question not long ago, I think a couple of days ago. I worked it out. A buffalo weighs about 800 kilograms, a very big buffalo. And so they'll probably need to drink about 40 liters of water a day in order to fully satisfy themselves on a very hot day. I mean, that's probably the absolute maximum they would drink. They could probably drink a bit less than that. I'm not a mathematician, but I did work out a number of different animals and how much they're estimated to drink, and it worked out to about 5% of the body weight. It's about 40 kilos for a very massive big buffalo bull. For this, females that are maybe a little bit less, maybe just like 20 liters or 30 liters. And it also depends on the day. If it's been very hot and they've walked a long distance, they'll drink more maybe. Some of them actually just resting. I don't think they'll go very far. It's quite cloudy, and although the sun is out, there's a lot of cloud cover, and so we might get a bit of rain this evening. It might be a bit darker. I don't think these buffaloes will go far, since the sun is going to set in about an hour's time. What time is it? Maybe just over an hour the sun will set. So they'll probably find themselves in the open clearing that we had the elephant a bit earlier. They keep going, oh, that looks like a pregnant buffalo. Very big belly. Maybe she's just eaten very well. And that buffalo behind her, that's one of those big old boys. Now you can see the top of his horns, got lots of bumps and knobbles all over it, and there's no fur growing on it anymore. Ha! I'm glad you're asking about tungsten. I actually haven't seen that group of male buffaloes for quite some time. Did you see those 7 buffalo bulls with Taylor last week?
Tungsten.
Yeah,
Is
tungsten.
it you or Taylor that we saw tungsten?
Yeah, we saw tungsten lots of times a couple of weeks ago.
But
not since then?
I saw him with his Taylor, I think, just before you took over.
Nice. So not long ago.
Not long ago.
Maybe like 5 or 6 days ago, Tungsten was last seen, or maybe a week. So he's still around. He's doing very well, Tungsten. Handsome gentleman that he is. He's a real hit with the ladies. But he wouldn't be following this herd because Tungsten is very old, and the gentlemen that he hangs out with are also very old buffaloes, and those are the ones that we would call Duggar boys. So what this buffalo is doing now is mixing itself into the mud, which is very similar to how you'd mix cement, which is what Duggar is in South Africa. It's a sort of slang word for cement. And so when they cover themselves in that mud, it becomes hard like cement. They get known as Duggar boys. Oh, that looks so good. Oh. So it's just loosening up the mud so that it churns it up a bit more. So Tungsten's too old to be following the herds on their daily walks many kilometers up and down for food. He'll just stay in one place close to water. You know, around this waterhole, I'm sure he'll come down frequently, but I just haven't seen him the last few days since I've been back. I'm hoping to see him. He's one of my favorites. I'm glad you're all asking about him. This water must be so full of buffalo and elephant poop. Wouldn't be very good to drink for us, but the buffaloes don't seem to mind. They're very thirsty. I'm actually hoping that lots more rain will come and then fill up this waterhole a lot more than it is. It's getting a little bit low now. I want the base of that leadwood tree at the back there with all the roots exposed. I want that to be underwater. Then it'll be not in Ndlovu Dam,
that one there,
but in Ndlovu Lake. Yeah, that one. Once that one is underwater, then we know the dam is nearing its fullest point. The water can escape on the right-hand side of us and allows it to not get too deep. Although when it gets that deep, our camp actually goes a little bit underwater, so maybe we should wait till all of our students are gone, and then it can fill up. Well, while we watch these buffaloes relaxing here, we'll send you over to Lauren.
I have been waiting for this sighting for so long, and it's finally happened. We've got the dwarfies and the giant plated lizard together. In this exact mound I had them last time, and I hope this was Fig, the little giant plated lizard that I was trying to habituate for quite some time. I think he's quite habituated. I've been waiting for this. This is yes, symbiosis is the right word to use. A symbiotic relationship. Look at the two of them together. No, the lizard. Look. They're completely symbiotic relationship They live together in the mound. The dwarf mongoose, not every single day, but the lizard most likely will use this mound every single day. It loves it when the mongoose come around. And it's quite common, believe it or not. They help protect each other. The mongoose definitely help protect the lizard. And because they're so astute, they'll look out for aerial predators, they'll look out for ground predators, and they will warn the lizard if anything's coming towards the mound. And the lizard, in return for that, will eat their poop. Yes, yummy. He'll eat their fecal pellets or their feces, and it's clearly delicious for him. And it's very good for the mongoose because it cleans up the mound and it keeps the entire area, their home, hygienic, preventing all sorts of nasty smells and bacteria from seeping into a mound that they call home. Ah! I have been waiting for this and waiting for this. It's incredible that it's just happened. Look at them. They're all just relaxing together. A reptile and a mammal. The smallest carnivore in the low veld and one of the largest lizards, well, second largest next to the monitor lizards. Just hanging out. What a wonderful sighting. Interspecies symbiosis. Technically two species that really have nothing to do with one another. They're not even in the same category, if you like. They're not threats to one another. They've just formed a relationship over time, and it's mutual. Mutual symbiosis. Symbiosis can also not be mutual, where it just benefits one member of the relationship and not the other, but it doesn't harm them. Or it can be detrimental, it can be parasitic, where it benefits one and it's detrimental to the other. Every day, for a very long time, I was checking this mound, hoping to see this wonderful moment. Because, of course, dwarf mongoose use a network of mounds. They're not always found in the same mound every single night. They run to the closest mound as soon as that sun goes down. So they have a network throughout their territory, and they run to whichever one they're closest to. The lizard has no fear of them. And really, I mean, he's a big lizard, Mr. Fig here, but the mongoose are very powerful. They've got really, really sharp teeth and really sharp claws. So if there was a sort of group of them together attacking this lizard, they could easily kill him. I mean, he's a bit big for one mongoose. Isn't this just so lovely? Many of you are saying how cute but weird it is. I agree. It's cute, but it's weird. And I've only seen it once before here, and I managed to get a photo, and just as we went live, typically both species ran away. Which is so typical. I've never managed to get it on camera, and this is only the second time I'm witnessing this. But you can habituate dwarf mongoose just like meerkats. There's an habituation process happening in Tswalu with the meerkats. You can actually do the same with dwarf mongoose if you have the time. Time is of the essence, but sadly not many of us have time. But it's a very similar sort of habituation process. And with the lizard, it used to dart into the mound the minute a vehicle got close. But I tried every single day just to spend a little bit of time at this mound or on Philemon's dip, just to get him used to the vehicle and the smells, and he doesn't dart away anymore. It could just be that he's feeling lazy. Or he could just be getting used to the vehicle. I don't know where everyone else has darted off to. Look at your sharp claws. If I was an insect, I would not want to encounter you. Oh, I'm so glad I got to share that with you all. What a lovely moment. I think I'm just going to sit here a little bit longer and enjoy it.
That does sound like an amazing sighting. I've never seen lizards and mongoose together. That would be really awesome to see. But I've got a plant that I've never seen here. Seen it for the first time. We had to quickly identify it in the book, but it is known as a desert rose, which is a fairly apt name for it. It belongs to the Hermania family, and the Hermanias, their general thing is that the flowers actually face downwards, and they have a beautiful sort of whirl or twirl in the petals. I'm going to try and find one, and we don't know. I'm going to bring it, and then Davy can zoom in on it, but it's absolutely stunning. It's a pretty little pink. We had a setup here already earlier, but in the heat, our flower from literally 2 minutes ago wilted. So I don't know if that's maybe one of the reasons why it faces downwards, so that it doesn't necessarily wilt. I've got another little friend, very pretty flower, and he might be easier to see. He's a little bit closer on the little grass stalk here, Davy. Every time I poke my finger there, he turns direction, but that is an instar of an elegant grasshopper. You got him there? On the grass stalk. So I'm not showing the sort of green and red and yellow as much, but definitely showing sort of a yellow and black. I want to see if he'll stay. You got him good there. Nice. You can see a nice bright little red eye, and these ones, when they get to the adult stage, they're green, orange, red, the full sort of rainbow of coloration that does show to most birds that they are toxic, not very nice to eat. So we're fortunate here that we haven't had any of those swarms of locusts that some of the rest of the African countries have been having this year. Just absolutely decimating crops and vast areas that they're moving through. Whoa! Did you just get him jumping on live TV? He just hopped down to the lower branch, hanging on for dear life. I don't know if he's chosen the best spot there, but he is relatively camouflaged against the grass. Yeah, I see some scorpion burrows, but they're facing in the wrong direction. So we'll show you. We were chatting about an aardvark earlier, so I was going to fetch my tracking cards to show you the aardvark track. So this would be the front foot of an aardvark, and then this one down here, the back foot. And that just shows you the size of the claws. So that would be a claw, then that would be attached to the foot there, and that would be sort of their digging apparatus. So that on either foot in the front for digging, and then even here on the back you generally see 5 impressions, also all claws that'll help them move the soil. So if If you want to stick with us and see an aardvark, you have to carry on watching WildEarth, at least till all the way in winter. So come June, July, August, that's our best time to start seeing the aardvark in the late afternoon, nice golden light. They do start feeding a bit earlier, so stay in your seats. You are allowed to eat and do other things in between, but if you really want to see the aardvark, then you need to stay on safari with us all the way through winter in the Kalahari. We're going to send you across to Djuma, where Andrew is just absorbing the sounds.
I guess that is the face of a completely satisfied customer after a good old mud wallow, a good drink, a bit of a swim, happy to continue on feeding into the sunset. Oh, and there's some other buffaloes doing other things. There's some that are scratching themselves, some that are moving away from the waterhole. I think my big head's going to get in the way though. Just having a good old scratch against that tree. It's like a all-in-one. It's everything that you could want from a spa session. And they're all moving off now. Most of the buffaloes have left the water, heading back actually in the direction they came, so probably going to go back to that nice open clearing that we found them in this morning. A lot of birds calling right now. As the sun sets, we get what's called the, not really the dawn chorus, it's like the dusk chorus. All the birds are announcing that they're going to rest for the evening. So yeah, you can see the mud all over the side of that buffalo, forming a nice thick layer all the way down its legs. Yesterday, Seb and I drove past some wildebeest, and we got attacked by a swarm of biting little flies. And it was incredible. I mean, we can chase them and we can spray bug spray and things on to protect ourselves. We can drive away very quickly in the car. But these things chased us for ages, probably for about half an hour. We had a swarm of flies. So imagine if you're a buffalo herd, and each of those buffaloes, sometimes if you get the sun just right, you see clouds of these flies, thousands and thousands of them. Oh, that was a funny face. Are you tired? I did a bit of a yawn there. Are you tired? Yeah, it's been a tough day, I think. Tough day. He's deep in thought. I wonder what a buffalo would think about, to be honest. Maybe the next meal. or the next mud wallow. But this one will be protected from the flies. No worries. No massive swarms of flies going to bother this one. He's actually not even finished yet. Look at the muscles on the shoulders, the neck. Oh, that is what makes these things so dangerous. They look docile and they look slow, but they're not at all. They are super quick if they want to be. They can turn on a hairpin, and they can accelerate, run. And that's why buffaloes are considered to be one of the most dangerous, and that's why I think they're super cool. And they have no fear either. They'll often run away in a group, but that's not fear. That's them moving distance to get a bit of a better idea what the danger is. But if anything attacks them, they will create this solid wall of horns and muscle. You can see off almost any predator. Speaking of which, we're going to go, after this buffalo herd is starting to leave the dam, we're going to head over to the western side of Pride Lands, where there was a young male lion found this morning. Seems quite nervous, quite skittish, but we wondered if maybe as the sun starts to go down, he might just come out for us. Maybe he's been chased by those larger two males that we had a couple of weeks ago, the ones that we know as the Masangulo males. He might be a young male that's just moving through the area. So we're going to head that way. As soon as these buffaloes head off, we're going to make our way that side to see if we can find that male, who wouldn't be a problem for these buffaloes. These buffaloes are far too big and powerful, and he's a young, inexperienced male. But if there was a large pride, you might just find them following a buffalo herd like this. Not to catch one of these big bulls, but to catch the youngsters. Look at those ears hanging low like that. Buffalo's hearing is not their best sense. Certainly I think they're... Oh, he's yawning again. He must be very tired. He's been busy, perhaps fighting. He's a very big bull. We were just saying, Seb, how big this bull is. So maybe he's quite strong. He's been fighting with other bulls for females. There's another big bull in the back there. He looks even bigger, actually. Certainly grumpier. And there's a big, fat, round female in the back there who looks very pregnant. We'll see her rolling over there. So their sense of smell is definitely their best sense for me. Often see buffaloes lifting their noses up to the air, look like this one's doing now. Catching scent and figuring out what's coming up towards them. And their eyesight's not great. Oh my goodness. You need to have an energy drink. This thing is yawning so much. So normally when we see animals yawning, it means that there's about to be a lot of movement, like maybe getting up after a long rest and moving off, going for a hunt. But honestly, I don't think buffaloes are doing too much of that. Oh, even that female has a big, tough, strong neck. The muscles there. Awesome to watch on this. There's also a very round female. I don't know if you can see it. She kind of looks like a seal. You know those seals that have those big round bodies and a tiny head? Very loud, sorry about that. Lazy boy, buffalo's horns are very heavy. Probably going to be weighing like 15 kilograms. But I couldn't tell you for certain. I just know that one that you're seeing right there has got very impressive horns. Not the longest horns I've ever seen, but certainly a wide boss. So I'm not sure exactly how heavy they'd be. Maybe 15 kilos, 20 kilos. Something like that, lazy boy. It's still making lots of noise, this radio. Let me turn it down even more. There you go. No more noise from our radio. They are just saying they found that young male lion. So that's very exciting for us. So we're going to head over that way and hope we can have a look at it as well. I really wonder how I'd find out how heavy a buffalo's horns are. I'd have to go and find a museum. Or maybe, there must be a set of buffalo horns somewhere on Pride Lands that have been hunted. I'll have to go and put it on a scale and see. I've never weighed one. I've tried to pick them up before, very heavy. It's good for exercise, actually. Look at that one. What is on the top of the head of that buffalo? Is that just a pile of mud? That's so funny. It's got like a little hat. See that one there? From flicking mud up onto his head, it's got a little mud cap. Don't be shy, show us your hat. There you go. It's very sun conscious. Right, so we're going to leave this waterhole now and go and see if we can find that young male lion, and we'll send you over to Tswalu. They're also at a waterhole.
So, look at that beautiful scene. We're at one of our calcrete waterholes, and those beautiful sun rays are coming through the clouds. There definitely looks like far more ominous weather in the southeast of the reserve, but what we are seeing at the waterhole is all your regulars, the Cape turtle dove, laughing dove, and Egyptian goose. That's kind of all the regulars that are at the water. The goose was just shaking out his feathers earlier, and they're just doing... Oh, there's a tortoise! You see him. So we didn't even see the tortoise until we zoomed in there. So a nice leopard tortoise. Oh, he's racing away. Look at him move. Oh, stopped. Look at him go. They move a lot faster than you think. It depends what their mission is. So the fact that it's moving that way suggests it's already had a drink or it's been to the water. It's on its way, leaving the water. But there's a nice size comparison between tortoise and goose. The Egyptian goose. There's only one Egyptian goose, which is quite strange. You normally see them in a monogamous pair. They're both going their separate ways. But what was at the waterhole earlier was a nice male giraffe. He's making his way off into the south. That way. Left. So, Darby, can you not see the giraffe? That big thing in front of us? Yes, that.
Sorry about that. Don't quite know what happened to Tswalu. I'm actually sniffing. You've caught me sniffing. There's an awful smell here. It smells like dead, rotten flesh. I've lost it. Can you smell it still, Johan? I just wondered if there's possibly something in this drainage line that I'm actually going to pop in. That smell was very, very strong. Let's go in and see. Let's pop our nose in. We do get the carrion bush out here, which is a wonderful plant that smells exactly like rotten flesh. It attracts the insects, so it works. And that's exactly what it wants to do for pollination purposes. But I just wonder if there's a carcass down here. I have a really heightened sense of smell for some reason. I don't know why. And I've actually found wild dogs many times, not known that they're there. They've not been called in. Tracks have not been called in. No one knows they're in the property, and you can smell them. You've got to use all your senses when you're in the bush, every single one. Maybe not touch. I take that back. I don't smell it anymore, but it was very strong up there. It smelled just like a carcass. But in saying this is where we did have the Talamati pride, so it could be left over from whatever delightful carcass they had. It can also be something small, a bird or scrub hair that's starting to decompose. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's something big, but I can't see anything. So I think we're going to head into both.
Big one has arrived.
Copy. Thank you, Pippa. I think we're going to head to Bufosuk. I want to check that hippo carcass, see if there's any hyenas on the carcass. I believe there might be, and to see what else is going on. I think dark mane's moved off as far as I know, but the young male Talamati is still there. Now we've got a bit of a traffic jam up ahead, I'm afraid. Just about to bump into Andrew, so since we're just about to bump into him, why don't we send you across to him?
Can you get it? I'll have to. So, welcome back to Tswalu. We've left the waterhole because we lost you, but I have just found what I said the other day was one of my favorite flowers. I'm just trying to push the three thorn out the way. Luckily, the three thorn, although it says three thorn, doesn't actually have it doesn't have thorns in it at all, but I'll show you just now. But this is a wild sesame. Open sesame, there we go. Can you see him? Yeah. So a nice little tube for the bees to fly in and then get the pollen on their back. So a wild sesame. It doesn't have any, this one's relatively new, so there's still flowers coming out. But when it's finished, I don't see any others around. It dries out like the seed pod itself dries out into well, it stays upright, and then just the wind over time, as the tree shakes, the seeds will come out. So I was talking about the 3-thorn. Show you, I don't know where the thorn comes in with this one. It is very sort of pointy and pokey if you're walking through it, but it's got no thorns on it. But the 3 comes from that shape there. So whenever the branches go and split, they split into a 3 shape. So we'll see. Yeah. Oh, there's a pretty... We've been talking a lot about the raisins, but we actually haven't seen lots of the flowers. So these ones are giving the brown-veined whites a lot of nectar at the moment, and the brown-veined whites, in turn for that food reward of pollinating the raisin. So this will get like a little berry type of a fruit, and eaten by a lot of animals, a lot of the birds, monkeys, some of the little insectivores. They'll come, not insectivores, frugivores is the fruit eater. They'll come and get those. And behind me here, this beautiful, beautiful white-stemmed tree is known as a shepherd's tree or a boskia. Boskia LB trunca. LB referring to white, trunk referring to the stem. This is also the larval food plant of those same brown-veined whites, which are zipping around all over the place. I don't know if you can see. That one's a bit too far, it's on the wrong side of the camera. So it's just a version of a wild asparagus, but our asparagus looks nothing like the asparagus that you pop out of the tin. Not at all. I was quite excited a few minutes earlier, before you joined us, because I saw a bird in the road. I thought, I know the family of birds, but I've never seen that bird before. And then it flew off. Fortunately, it landed relatively close, and I was able to identify it as a grey-backed sparrowlark. And I just have to go check my records, but I'm pretty sure it's a lifer for me today. So it puts me slightly closer to having seen, out of this 950 in this bird book, I'm almost at, am I over or near? I'll tell you, I think I'm close to 600, either just before or just after. So it will be a big milestone for me to add another one, but I have to check if I have or haven't seen it, because distributionally it's quite wide across southern Africa. So there is a possibility. I have spent some time in Namibia and Botswana, and the northern and the western Cape. So there is a possibility I have seen one before, but might be many, many years ago. So join us. We're going to carry on driving. Hopefully you don't lose us, but we can actually see, Darby and I are going to try and avoid it today, is the rain out in the far east. That's sort of the southeast. That's all within Tswalu. So somewhere along Tswalu we're getting some rain, but right out there in the east, those nice rain clouds. So while you drive with us, please don't hesitate to send your questions. Hashtag WildEarth and put @FC in front. And what I can't answer, Darby says he can. I thought I'd try. So you're actually seeing here, this is a nice example of the papery seed pods on the 3 thorns. So Sinak is asking if the 3 thorn is the smallest acacia we get at Tswalu. So it's actually not an acacia. It's a rygosum. So it forms part of the sort of wild pomegranate group. The smallest acacia that we get, I'm trying to think, well, the grey camel thorns don't get very big. Oh, the candlepot. The candlepot acacia, we'll have to show you one of those. That's generally a short one that makes a thicket, but no more than 1 meter in height. So I've pulled the seed pod off. I'm going to actually just drop it here, and you can see all those little papery seeds. They're about to come. They were ready to come out because the seed pod had already split open. And when you have a seed pod that's got sort of paper on the outside, There's two ways that this particular seed can be dispersed. One of them would be to sort of float on water. If there's a large movement or a body of water, then it can it's a very lightweight seed. It will move on water. And the other one is, of course, if it gets pushed on the wind. So a beautiful three-thorn seed, but not an acacia, a rygosum. So the wild pomegranate family. I don't see anything. We're gonna distribute these out to make more little three thorns. So yeah, the name three thorn is the misleading part on this particular bush, because there are no thorns. Watch out, Davy. So, just beautiful. So this is one of our thickets. So Crafty Stash is asking the question, why don't we get elephants in Tswalu? And although Tswalu is a very large area and elephants would have moved through these areas historically, they didn't live here all the time. If they came through the deserts of Namibia, they would generally come along the river lines, and we don't have any permanent sources of water. We've got no river lines, we've got no large camel thorn trees or anything that could sustain elephants. And all we would land up doing, even if the property got exceptionally large, all you would land up doing by introducing elephants is you'd actually start changing the biodiversity, because a lot of the plants wouldn't be used to the heavy impact that elephants would have on these environments. So, and you'd also have to have down here, there's a very busy butterfly. You'd also have to have a relatively large area for them to move in order to find enough food. So that's one of the reasons why Tswalu does not have elephants. So look at this beautiful patch of devil's thorns. It's beautiful now because it's lots and lots of yellow flowers. But come the time where the flowers have been pollinated, they make these nasty little thorns that everybody treks in under their shoes into their house, and then you barefoot and then you stand on it and you'll know all about it. But we're just going to stand by here and see what other insects come to our devil's thorn patch.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes.
Terms and conditions apply.
What makes andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. For any sensitive viewers, just a word of caution, we have quite a graphic sighting ahead of us, so maybe turn the TV off if you are a little bit squeamish. But for those of you who are quite excited by the perils of nature, we've got something that is very interesting right ahead of us. As you can see, we've got two male cheetah here, the same two that we were looking at yesterday afternoon, and they have caught a young wildebeest calf. Quite unbelievable how much they've already managed to consume. You can see that one closest to us really got quite a full belly, and see how it picks up his head and looks around periodically, just checking for signs of any other predator coming that might have heard alarm calls or be attracted into this area to steal this carcass away from them. Well, the great thing for them about this young wildebeest calf is that there's, it's still got very small bones, so there's a lot of meat and things that they're going to be able to feed off of. In fact, even the ribs, they might even be able to get a bit of those ribs. So you can actually hear some crunching as I'm saying it. Look at how that cheetah is putting its whole mouth right over the bones, using its tongue to lick up the blood and trying to crush those bones, which is quite unusual to see cheetah try and do that. You can see those small little teeth poking out. They've got tiny, tiny teeth. As it pulls it to the side, they've got their back teeth are very much like scissors and cut through meat and muscle. Amazing how much they've managed to eat. And what's beautiful to see is all of that blood. Look at that one at the back. It's got so much blood all down the side of its face. Leopard lover, I love your comment. Spot heaven indeed. We're so lucky to be able to see these things. The variety of predators that Africa has to offer. And especially with cheetah, they are quite endangered. There's only about 7,100 left in the world, or in the wild, let's say. This one's got a hairball. Look at that. It's busy coughing. So the wild cats actually do get hairballs, just like domestic cats, and it's a combination from grooming themselves, but also they do also lick off the fur of some carcasses. So to get down to the skin, or actually right to the meat, you actually might see them lick the skin and get off some of that fur. They've got a very, very rough tongue, sort of like sandpaper. So they'll get off that fur. Sometimes you see them cough just like that, and every now and then you might see them get a fur ball or a hairball. Hammond, thank you very much for your question. It's a very good one. And as you can see, they're devouring most of this carcass. Now, there's sections that they don't eat, as you ask, which is the stomach and the intestines. And as one stood up, it looked like it had a very wet belly. So I don't know if this one has, by mistake, ruptured one of those, which would spill, quite a gooey contents, making the bottom of the belly wet. But generally, they do actually try and avoid those, and the reason being is that you can imagine that's all undigested plant material or digested plant material, so it's got quite a pungent smell, and if they puncture those organs like the stomach or the intestines, it would carry that scent quite far, And something like that could attract another predator into the area. So they're very, very careful about removing that, and it's amazing. I even saw them do that with something very young like a wildebeest. I saw them feeding on an impala the other day, a young impala calf, and they still managed to take out those organs rather than puncturing them, which you would think, you know, such a young sort of prey item like this, they could maybe just eat that in one go without really risking too much scent being passed on. I think it's such an instinctual thing that they've always learned, and they still do it to this day. They've now gone onto the one leg. You can actually see how beautiful it is that they feed together so nicely. Now, this is the difference between prides of lion and cheetah, is these two males will do everything together, and even when they feed, you can see there's absolutely no aggression whatsoever. It's a small carcass, there's not a lot of meat left, but they still will feed quite happily alongside one another. The only time they're actually going to show aggression is when they're mating. Opposite is when you see something like a pride of lions. They'll actually fight quite heavily over the carcass. You know, especially when it's small like this, the male lion will drag it off. The more dominant lions will definitely feed first. Just have a look as that one stands up. Look at how wet under the belly it is. You can see quite a bit of blood there. I don't know what is causing... Yeah, actually if we look just to the left of the carcass, you can see that there's quite a bit of moisture there, and what looks like some sort of digested plant material. So I think they did accidentally rupture one of the organs this time. That's possibly what's causing all that moisture. Andrew, with cheetah, they are slightly different to other predators. Now, they are not opportunistic hunters. Lions and leopard both will try and get every opportunity they can for hunting. So if something walks past, they might just try their luck. And there's a few reasons why they differ to cheetah, is that, you know, they don't use as much energy when they try and hunt, because cheetah have to run and build up quite a bit of speed. So you can imagine how much more energy you use when you sprint. You can imagine us doing a 100-meter sprint at our top speed. There's nothing compared to the energy a cheetah will use, and we are really very tired after that. It takes a while for us to recover. So it's the energy, and the second is that every time they hunt, they risk injury. So they are much more selective about when they hunt. So generally, once they're full, they won't try and hunt for the next few days, generally about 2 or 3 days. And then they'll start looking for opportunities to hunt again, which may take another few days. So generally, maybe every 4 or 5 days, they'll average a proper kill. But it will vary very much on the availability of prey, the circumstance of that time, and a variety of other factors. I think that one actually, it just did quite an interesting movement. Did you see how it sort of hopped off to the left? Sorry, to its right, and didn't put any weight on its front left leg. Sort of put all the weight on the right leg. It might have just been being a bit lazy, but it also could have hurt the front left leg while it's busy hunting. You can see there's a lot of little rocks around this area, a lot of broken branches, and that is the problem with when they hunt, they build up such high speeds, and it's always a danger that they might misplace their foot somewhere, might put it on something. So I'm not sure if it's maybe injured that leg, or perhaps it was just an uncomfortable part to put that one foot down. You can actually see how they've peeled that skin back. They're one feeding at the moment. You can see that skin's peeled right back. It's getting right into the meat there. They've got such an intense gaze, these cheetah. If we have a look at the contrast between these two males as well, you can see the one on the right is quite a bit lighter than the one on the left. It's much more dark in color. What's quite interesting is the color of that one on the left's eyes are also, they generally have a very amber color, these cheetah, but that one seems to be almost a little bit more brown than usual. You can see all the scars from years of fighting. You can see this one, especially as it turns to the right. It's got lots of scars over its nose, the one that's very light in color. You can see how heavily that one on the left is panting still. It's possible that that one was the one that actually took this wildebeest calf down. They do pant quite heavily after hunting. Generally takes about half an hour after they've made the kill to slow their heart rate down. And also pant heavily to aid digestion. But I think if we just compare the heart rate between both of them and that breathing pattern, you can see that one on the left is still panting a bit more heavily. So I think he was possibly the one that did the main chase. Also makes sense based on the fact that he might have injured his one paw, and that could have been done in the chase, as we've discussed before. Moondust, your question is fantastic to talk about, especially with these two males. Yes, unrelated males can form coalitions, and in this case, these two are actually separated by a year. They are not brothers. Now, this is an unnatural sort of bonding that's happened here, and it may sound a bit weird, but sometimes what we do is if a male has lost his brother, due to predation or a snake bite or something, and there's another male that's on his own, we will forcibly bond them, meaning we'll take them into a boma area and they'll spend a month or two in that boma getting used to each other, and slowly they'll form a bond. And as you can see, that bond becomes really strong, and these two feed together quite happily these days despite not being related. Now, the reason we do that is because, as I said before, cheetah are very endangered, only 7,100 left in the wild, and we need to do whatever we can to protect them. So with these two, we've done that. Well, in fact, they actually came from a reserve called Manyoni where they did that, but we've done it here in Phinda as well. And we find that they're far, far more successful in a coalition than they would be by themselves. Now, in the wild, it can also happen that an unrelated male will join a coalition. It will be up to the cheetahs to decide whether it's in their benefit to do that or not. The male that's unrelated will have to be very submissive and continually approach the other males. They can react incredibly negatively to that. In fact, male cheetah are known to kill other male cheetahs, so it's quite a risky move. But if the dominant coalition actually feel it's in their benefit, or that one cheetah feels it's in its benefit to add another cheetah to the coalition, then it can be receptive to that. And it will weigh up the options, because on the pro side, there'll be other assistance when hunting, like for instance, this one might be injured, I'm not sure. But then the other male can still hunt, and they can both feed that way. Also more ears and eyes out for predators. But the drawback is when it comes to mating. So now there's going to be a hierarchy amongst these two. And we've seen that one on the right seems to be the dominant male in this coalition, which means that if they come across a female in estrus, he is the one that will get mating rights. So he will mate firstly, and the other one might try and fight for a chance to mate with her, or might just let the dominant male go ahead and mate with her straight away. And that's where there's the drawback, because it is instinctual for the males to try and pass on their genes as often as possible. So that's a long-winded way of saying yes, unrelated males can form coalitions together. You can even see the hierarchy just between them two, just based on how much the one has fed on the right. Even though they feed quite happily together, you can already see he's got quite a fuller belly than compared to the one on the left. Dave, sometimes she would, but I haven't seen her here. It would, I think as soon as she's realized that there's no hope for her calf, she might move off, because it really does take the amount of time for them to really be sure of the fate of their calf, and then generally they accept the fate and carry on. It's a really good question though, because I have seen, cases where the mother did hang around for quite a while. In fact, recently we saw a wildebeest calf, but there was no sign that it had actually been killed by anything. I think it was probably natural causes, maybe something was born sort of underdeveloped, but it was certainly a few days old, and it was quite heartbreaking because you could see where the tracks of the mother had actually walked in circles around a calf repeatedly, trying to sort of nudge it up, get it to wake up, and eventually moved off. With something like this, they'll actually be able to almost finish the entire carcass. You can see that one on the left is now eating the skin, using their scissor-like teeth to cut off bits of skin and feed on even the skin. So I think we'll sit here with these males for a little bit. But I hear they've got some interesting weather going on in Tswalu, so it might be a beautiful scene for you all to go and have a look what's happening there.
Just look at what we've got. There's such extreme weather conditions. Bright blue sky on the left in the north, and some cloud cover in the middle, and then we head to rain shower a little bit further to the south, and then beautiful golden light on the Karaneberg Mountains, and then you can just see sheets of rain coming down in the south. So Tswalu is getting wet in our southeastern corner at that stage, and there's some beautiful lightning. If we're just patient, we might see a nice lightning strike. So it's looking rather ominous for us. The wind is coming in from the south, so Darby and I are starting to run home.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. We're still with these cheetah, and as we're sitting here, the most beautiful light is starting to hit them. Unbelievable. We call this the golden hour. I'm sure those of you who've really experienced in photography know about this time of day where it's just absolutely serene. The sunlight that starts hitting the animals is more this golden color. You can see it's not such a harsh yellow, it's more this goldeny color. And it's just making the scene even more beautiful. It sounds weird describing something that's actually quite gory as a beautiful scene. But I suppose it is just, it's always wonderful when you see predators that really have a lot against them. There's a lot of predators that are high up on the food chain. There's hyena, lion, leopard, other cheetah, all in competition with these ones here. And it's amazing when you see them successful. You know that they've got full bellies after this. The next few days they don't have to worry about much. They can just go into an open area, relax, digest their food, and just keep a lookout for predators. And always when they're hunting, that's when they're at the most at risk, because now they have to move through areas they don't know what's there. They have to go into thickets where anything might be lying behind a bush. Look at that. You can see all that blood right on that open floor there. A little bit of me is wondering if perhaps the mother was busy giving birth when these cheetah managed to kill this wildebeest, just based on the amount of blood I'm seeing around. But I'll have to ask the ranger that actually saw it. There were 2 rangers that were here, and I think they managed to witness the scene. I can actually hear wildebeest calling in the distance. So we had a viewer earlier ask if the mother would hang around. There certainly are wildebeest not far away from here that are busy calling. And that's what caught that cheetah's attention. Yeah, it is limping a little bit. You can see it's trying not to put a lot of weight on that front left leg. I don't think it's a bad injury. I can't see any bone or anything sticking out. I think maybe it's just sprained its wrist or something like that, as it was doing quite a long run, quite an exertion run. So most likely we'll just take a day or 2 to recover and all should be fine. And like I said, it's in a really good position because they've got full bellies. They don't have to do much in the next few days. And luckily for him, he's got this other male in his coalition who's very capable of hunting. So shouldn't do any lasting damage. Elay, that is a really fantastic question, and the answer is no, I haven't, and I actually don't think that they do. The problem is that cheetah are so nervous of other predators that even if they come across a carcass, it's unlikely that they're going to feed on it because they are scared that it is an abandoned carcass from another predator that maybe has just gone to fetch its cubs or gone to drink, and that'll put them in a compromising position. It's really interesting that you asked this question because when I was found a young wildebeest calf the other day on drive, and we determined it was natural causes that had killed it. We were discussing what might come and feed on it, and the question came up with cheetah. And I was lucky to be working with a very experienced tracker by the name of Pat, who's been working on this reserve for 25 years. And so that is the most unbelievable wealth of knowledge you could hope for. You know, a lot of books, you'll read all these things, but it's very subjective to the animals that's studied at that time, you know, the sightings that they managed to have and how they behave in a particular area. So if you come across someone who's worked in the industry for 25 years, you can imagine what interesting information can come out of that. And he said, no, cheetah do not scavenge. He's never ever in 25 years seen a cheetah scavenge, and definitely it is to try and avoid conflict with other predators. Kimby, you can make your way as a second. It's just myself here. Amazing. As we've been watching, we were talking about that golden sort of color hitting those cheetah just at the perfect time, and just like that it's gone. You know, the sun's starting to set, it's just gone behind the mountain. And this is the time that those cheetah are going to start becoming quite wary of their surroundings. You know, they most likely they won't stay with this carcass. They're going to finish what they can, and as it starts getting dark, they're going to go into an open area to try and avoid any conflict with predators such as lion. And Mike has actually got one of those predators. As we're saying, they're becoming more active, and he seems to have already found one. So we're going to send you over to him.
So how lucky is this? We've managed to find that young male lion that's been hanging around for a couple of days. As you can see, he's resting at the moment. It's probably been a little bit nerve-wracking for him moving about an area that he doesn't often get seen. And we know there's lots of elephants and buffaloes around. And a couple of times this morning, guides went off on foot to try and find this lion. So he's been up and down. So we're not approaching any closer than this. We're quite a distance now, maybe 25 meters away. Just watching him as he rests his head in the grass here. He's put his head up a moment ago, maybe hearing something going down to Leopard Dam, but at the moment he doesn't seem like he wants to move too much. It's a young male lion. Some of you who've been watching for a while might know this as one of the two young males that had been seen a few months ago in the area. One was limping quite badly, and this one is not limping. We haven't seen it get up and move yet, but one of the other guides did see it move and walk around. It's not limping at all, so that's great to know. And that other guide also told us that he'd seen tracks of a lioness also in the area. So perhaps Lagatha, that feisty lioness that's been seen around here that you all have come to know and enjoy, is also around here. Perhaps these two will form a bond. Amazing camouflage of this lion in the grass here. Staying close to a big open area that we call red earth, and also to a rocky outcrop where many antelope species might go and feed along the edge of. And of course Leopard Dam not so far away, so a perfect ambush zone here this lion has got. I see his tail just moving every now and again, and the ear also flicking around. I think there's probably a few flies bothering this lion. You see the ear flicking there. Sometimes when the flies get a bit much, you find the lion gets up and moves to another spot. So hopefully that'll happen, so we get to look at this beautiful male. It looks really beautiful. He put his head up a moment ago. Really saw the lovely blonde mane around the chin, darkness right on his chest there. So I think he's going to be a beautiful dark-maned lion as he gets a bit older. See the ear just swiveled, listening to something behind. Of course, the sound of my voice will easily carry to this lion. He's got an incredible sense of hearing, and definitely knows we're here, been watching us and seeing us. But perhaps just something moving in the grass behind this lion. Really would love to see this lion sticking around this area we were discussing earlier. There's not that many other lions that use this part of Pridelands as their territory. So this lion who's young, who has to spend all of his time avoiding conflict with larger, more dominant males, might just be thinking about carving out a little territory of his own in this area, which would be great for us because it's nestled beautifully in the western side of Pridelands, not too far north. Actually, not so far. In fact, this might be one of the lions which was cornered by hyenas on a rocky ridge a few months ago. To come back to explore the area again. And as long as he keeps a low profile, the hyenas should not bother this lion. If it makes a kill, it will have to defend itself, which is wherein the problem lies. That's why we think the lions have been avoiding this area of Pridelands for a little while now. They've got cubs. The pride that's been using the eastern portion of the area we can traverse, called Kwenga. They've been hanging around there quite a lot, and they've got at least 6 young cubs, so perhaps that's why they're staying away from this area, because of all the hyena activity. Speaking of hyenas, I think Lauren's got one right now.
Don't mind me, I'm just having a conversation with Hart. Miss Hart, where are you off to? Oh, there. Oh, okay, I see. Diary's full. Oh, no, we're going to have a little scratch. She's been standing here for about a few minutes now. Hart, where's Intima? Which den is she going to use? Do you know? We're at the den, almost. And I'm hoping there's another adult there. If not, no, don't walk away, Hart. I was enjoying our conversation. She was obviously not enjoying it as much as I was. Okay, let's just go to the den. It's right there. Fingers crossed there's another adult. I've been on a wild goose chase after the Talamatis. We almost had them, and then they heard dark mane calling from way up in Buffelshoek. And they immediately changed their trajectory and went into the block, and we all lost them. I can see a creature. Oh, hello. Well, everyone, we're going to give you a tiny second glimpse, and then we will leave. Corky's daughter's there, but sadly, there's no adults. It must have just been Hart. Oh, and she's leaving too. And off we go. Back on one's journey around Djuma Game Reserve to look for animals. I'm just going to drive slowly. Sometimes the adults sleep all around the den, but I really don't see anyone. Ribbon has her throne just over here. Nope, no luck, I'm afraid. So one must leave the den. But I got lucky with my mongoose and the lizard. That is a sighting of the day. Such a joy to see that. Patience pays off, we always say that. I think I've been waiting about 6 months. No, not that long. Yeah, possibly. Maybe 5 or 6 months for that sighting. Aha, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? That's fascinating. I wonder why Hart was popping her head in den number 2. Oh. Nothing's there. We'll give you a look at den number 2. This is my favourite den, but nothing's there. But Hart was just in the dentrance, shall we call it. The reason I came by here when I saw her was because I'm curious about Intima. I'm wondering if Intima would use a Dane that her mother has used, a Dane that she's familiar with. And she is familiar with Dane number 2. I can still see heart. Okay, so I'm going to continue my search for any animals that I can find. But of course, Kim's already got her cheetahs and Phinda.
As you can see, these 2 male cheetah are still devouring whatever is left of this young wildebeest. There's very little meat actually left on the bone. You can see that limb off to the left is completely eaten right down to the bone. One seems to have actually had enough and is now going to rest a little bit, leaving the other male to carry on feeding. And I also wonder if they're starting to realize as the light starts to get a little bit darker, they have to be a little bit more alert. Because as we've seen from the lions and the hyenas that you are busy watching in all the other reserves, the predators are definitely getting more active now. And something like this, those hyenas that you saw that ran off, they've got an incredibly good sense of smell, and they can smell a carcass from apparently 5 kilometers away. I think that's more of a really putrid smell, and then a lot of things would have to be sort of in favor of that. Maybe a strong wind with not much blocking it, quite an old carcass. But they do have an incredibly good sense of smell. And the cheetah will know that something like this carcass is going to attract other predators should they come close enough. So they've got to be very, very alert as they're busy eating. Luckily for them, they've caught it in a fairly open area, so at least they can, have a large area to scan around and check for any other predators that might be coming close. What's beautiful from this angle is you can see the contrast between these 2 males. The one on the left, very, very pale in color, and then the one on the right much darker. So one on the left is incredibly pale for a cheetah. They normally are quite a bit darker, and that's just a sort of a little bit of genetic diversity between these 2. As we've said before, they're not brothers. They actually come from a different litter and have been bonded together in a boma area. It's really interesting to see the amount of scarring that one on the left has on its face. You can see lots of claw marks going down the nose. Very typical of a dominant male having mated a lot. That's often from the females being quite aggressive towards them. Because when they do mate, they follow them around for quite a bit, and they make this low purring sound. And the females actually, it compromises the females' awareness. So they can be quite on edge when the males are following them. And it's also quite a painful process to mate. So they can actually be quite vicious towards the males, both before and after. The lazy boy, it's not a huge meal, but as you can see, their bellies are quite full. I would say generally for about 2 days, they most likely aren't going to try and hunt. They'll probably find an open area and sort of wait to digest this food. It can be slightly different with male cheetah though, because they do also have a territory that they need to patrol. So it's possible that they burn off a bit more energy than the females. and so might hunt a bit sooner. But generally about 2 days, I would say, until they start actively looking for other hunting opportunities. You can see that one on the left is breathing quite heavily. I don't think it's from running now. I'm thinking it's just purely digestion, trying to digest all this amount of food. You'll often see animals when they're very hot, when they're very full, they'll pant very heavily, just like we're seeing now. You can see a few flies are starting to bother them. Every now and then one cheetah's tail flicks up and then its ears twitch a little bit. So obviously the flies are coming down to this carcass as well. You can see that ear flicking a little bit on the left there. Sometimes it's just what we need when these cheetah are lying in the long grass. Sometimes you're really lucky and just spot that little tail go up. Actually something moving off to our right. I just heard a branch breaking. But ironically these cheetah haven't noticed anything, so maybe I'm mishearing something, because they do have very, very good senses, including all of them, very good sense of sight, smell and hearing, far better than my own. So I'm sure if it was something to be concerned about, they might have reacted a little bit more than they have done now. So we're going to sit and take this scene in for a little bit longer. And Andrew is busy sitting at a watering hole, and you're going to enjoy a peaceful moment in the African wild with him.
Live.
Well, we haven't had any luck at all finding animals, but do not worry. I'm still trying. On the radio, it just got called in that there is a Madora Ingwe on Torchwood stalking a giraffe. And the giraffe can't quite believe that he's been stalked. Apparently that's what's happening over in Torchwood, but unfortunately we would not make it there in time. I don't know which leopard it is, but he's stalking a giraffe. I wonder if it's Tandy's cub. It's definitely a case of biting off more than you can chew. Now there's lion tracks going all the way up this road of an entire pride, but I do think it's the Termites. This must have been where they came in. I am very much looking forward to answering your questions, since I have no animals. Hammond, you're asking about brown hyena. Now, I believe, a spider web on my face, a very long time ago, there was one brown hyena spotted here. They're not actually that rare, but we don't seem to get them in this area, at least in the Sabi sands. I would really love to see them here. But they're not rare in general. They can also be found in urban areas. But the best place, I believe, to see them, obviously Tswalu is a really good place to spot brown hyenas, is Namibia. And I mentioned this the other day, but on the Skeleton Coast, there's this fantastic interaction that must have sort of evolved through natural selection, where the brown hyenas walk on the beach, and that's where the name strand wolf comes from, and they hunt seals. Seals that have came up and out the ocean onto the land. They've beached themselves and they're probably sunbathing and resting. And along comes a brown hyena. And apparently it's not very much of a hunt. It's more of a case of the brown hyena walking along and just picking up the seals. It's not entirely exciting, but it's fascinating. You've got an oceanic, pretty much oceanic animal, and the brown hyenas are feasting on them, and it's a really wonderful place to see them. There's also a brown hyena project that happens in Namibia on the Skeleton Coast. It's on my bucket list to go there for sure, but we don't get them in Djuma, in answer to your question. This area is really, really dominated by the spotted hyenas. They're the most numerous. I think they're the most numerous in most areas throughout South Africa. And in Ethiopia, there's a really fascinating place called Harar, and it's a community, a Muslim community, where hyenas have always been present there on the periphery, and they of course live in the urban area. Sorry, I have a spider web in my eye. And they come to get the scraps from the humans, but there's never been a negative interaction with humans and the hyenas. There's never been a fatality or an attack. And it stems back generations, but one man decided that he wanted to start getting the community to understand that you shouldn't fear a hyena. They're not going to attack you. So he started this program where he gets a really long stick, puts it in his mouth, and it's almost like a kebab, a skewer. It's got meat on it. And he puts it in his mouth and he feeds the hyena via his mouth. And tourists, like myself, can go do that. Davi and I almost did that when we were in Ethiopia, but unfortunately, due to some road issue, we were not able to get there. But although I don't personally agree with feeding wild animals, and I'm not promoting that, it's fantastic what this man has done. And it's been passed down from grandfather to father to son. And the entire community now thrives off the tourism and the respect that hyenas bring. It brings income into quite a poor rural area, and it's also an educational process. It brings tourists to the area, and now the hyena is no longer feared and no longer a negative thing. It's now a really positive thing, and people enjoy seeing hyenas around. So of course, it's quite a controversial technique, but all in all, fascinating. That's also on my bucket list, to feed a hyena with my love. So as I bumble not finding any animals, we're going to send you to Tswalu, who has some animals.
Look at what we have here. It's a beautiful kudu female, and she's been doing something really strange. So she's either smelling the bark of the tree, or she's like nibbling the bark off the tree. We're not 100% sure exactly what she's doing, but it's a behavior I've never seen before. There was a group of them here, so maybe a male has come and sort of scent marked, or she's smelling a wildebeest, or we just don't know. It's quite strange. For me to see. I've never seen them sort of smelling the trees. So the wind's coming in quite strongly from the south now. It is pushing that thunderstorm into us. But there you just see her smelling. There were probably about 5 or 6 others that are also they're starting to mosey their way up the mountain slowly, but fortunately we're relatively close to the lodge, which makes them generally more relaxed. Otherwise, sometimes you just see a very fast dash of a kudu, and all that's left is a white tail. There's a few more there. So you're probably hearing on the mic how strong the wind is now. We may have just missed myself and Darby getting wet this afternoon. It might just swing around us. But there we go, you can see the one nibbling there on the blackthorn. So they are predominantly browsers, so just eating leaves. And sometimes they're eating down on the ground and it looks like they're eating grass, but they're generally eating forbs or shrubs. We're going to send you over to a fiery sky in Ngala.
We are just watching the last bit of the sunset here at andBeyond in Ngala, and it is just so beautiful. BK put it quite nicely. He said with the clouds in the background there almost look like smoke in that deep red color. It's literally like the mountains are on fire. And just look at how dramatic it is with that very dark cloud at the top, that thick layer of purple, and then those smaller clouds intimately placed all around. It's a really beautiful scene. It's one of those sunsets that only get better once the sun is actually set. And for a long time we had clear blue skies, and it looks like a big bank of dark cloud is starting to move over. So when we were celebrating, thinking that most of our rain had already come, it might still be on its way with all of these deep dark clouds. But this is such a beautiful, typical Africa sunset. Especially with those dead trees that are sticking out. Those are all dead knob thorns. Marula trees that are silhouetted. It's nice just to take a moment, just to take it all in. This for me is what it's all about. Ending the day off watching the sunset having that moment just to listen to nature really just brings peace.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. WildEarth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, WildEarth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. WildEarth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be a part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Why is the Mara special? It's one of the only few places that you can find the annual wildebeest migration. I will still go for the lion. The main reason is a sign of royalty, leadership in my tribe, and apart from that, over here, it is feared by all but loved by everyone.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
I have just entered into a magical wonderland. Look at this, the same termite as the same mound as yesterday, and the alates are streaming out like I'm in some kind of fairy tale. Oh, this is magical. We've got the workers back out, we've got the soldiers out. The alates, the reproductive members of the termite colony, are the ones with the wings. Wings that have taken so long to grow, and wings that will be discarded the minute they make their flight and touch the ground. Oh, this is wonderful. They stream out, and normally once the last alate has left the mound, the workers will seal up the doors, I guess. Use saliva, use soil, and they'll seal up the doors, and that's the termite mound closed. You can see the colour, you can see the soldiers with the big heads, and the much smaller ones are the workers. This is, you see them all coming out. I know it looks a little bit unpleasant when you see that sort of number of insects, but this is really one of nature's greatest spectacles happening right in front of our eyes. When the alates stream from the mound, it's really something special. It's their entire purpose, actually. It's the only way a colony can grow, for these alates to leave their natal mound and disperse, take flight, doesn't matter how big or how long that flight is, land and start their own colony. And of course, once the harsh conditions come, once the rains stop and winter kicks in, it will become very barren for them. And months will elapse before the termites can ever be active like this, and before an opportunity for flight will ever present itself again. They will really not fly until there's been rain, and as you know, there's been lots of rain here. They need to fly. If they don't fly, they're defying their sole purpose for existing. Many of you are saying this is awesome. It's so incredible. I spotted the termites last night, but I don't think I saw any alates. They're fluttering all around us. They're everywhere. And it's gorgeous just to know their purpose. They will become the future kings and queens. They will be the ones to start their own colony. And the future queens here are so graceful, so lovely and slim and slender. But I can assure you, the minute they start producing eggs, the minute they're put into the royal cell, they become completely immobile. They don't move. They no longer move. Once they discard their wings, start their mound, go into the royal cell, they don't move and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now it's almost slightly grotesque to see her. The king stays by her side. He doesn't leave her. He watches his wife get larger and larger and larger. He doesn't leave her side. But he doesn't do much else, to be fair. And in that first year of laying eggs, the queen can have anywhere from 100 to 1,000 eggs a day. That's her sole purpose. But she can't move. So then the workers come in. The workers come into the royal cell, they pick up the eggs and they transport them into little holding cells and they look after them. They tend to the eggs, the future of the colony. You can tell I'm reading a book on termites right now. It's a really wonderful book and it's free online. I recommend it to anyone. You can just get the PDF online. I'm in termite heaven. One of the best names that I hear in my ear these days, Dr. Octobong. No. So, of course, genetically, yes, but there will be no other connection. The sole purpose here, you see the soldiers defending the alates here. This is incredible. The sole purpose of the future kings and queens that are now scuttering all around me, you can probably hear them flying into my mic, they must start afresh. So genetically they will be related because they all come from the same queen, but they will start afresh. There will be no relation. And of course, due to the fact that there's so many species out here, you know, I think this frog is eating them, Johan. You see this frog just here? I think it's a bushveld rain frog. I think it is eating the termites. Don't know how to direct this to you in the dark. There we go. Yes, he's feasting on the termites, and there you go. So they're not all successful. They won't all make it. But the key to being a successful future king and queen, to becoming royalty, is to get away from the mound. It is to take that flight. If you don't take that flight, then you're defying the sole existence of being a termite, of being an alate. I wrote a quote down for you all, actually. I was hoping to see termites. I'm going to read it out to you. This is from the book, The Soul of the White Ant by Eugene Murray. And he says, "A second in time, 3 inches in space, 1 flutter of wings, are to the termite a gulf as wide as infinity, dividing 2 kinds of existence, to be or not to be, fertile." Isn't that lovely? Well, I think it's lovely. So it just takes a flutter, it just takes a leap, and they start their own new colony. And they're the fertile ones. They are the ones of extreme importance. But the colony is mainly made up of the workers, and the workers here are the smaller ones. And the soldiers are always on point. They're always around guarding. And although this is so spectacle and wonderful to watch, this annual phenomenon, actually, the chances of success are very, very little. And that's why there's so many alates streaming out of here. I feel like I'm in a fairy tale. But unfortunately, the chances of success are low. only a few romantic couples will actually escape and make it. Jerome, absolutely, yes. Once a reptile comes, this is an absolute, this is a buffet, all-you-can-eat buffet. And it's just never ending. The soldiers will nip, they will use their mandibles, and I've been pinched by a soldier before. It's rather painful, and it will, of course, deter the predator. But for a big bird of prey, normally during the day, you'll see tawny eagles, you'll see battaliers, all swooping down to a sort of exit hole where the alates are streaming out of and just plucking them one by one. They're so nutritious. The predators can't resist. So these sort of future kings and queens that we're looking at, they're actually equipped. They're much bigger. They're bigger than the soldiers. They're actually equipped with huge fat reserves. So not only does that make them delicious, but it allows them to survive during the sort of mating process and the starting of their own colony. So not only does the rain bring this incredible phenomenon, it brings all the predators to them. And the workers they look so small, they look so minuscule, and it's so easy to look over them, but they do everything. They look after the eggs, the developing babies, they forage, they maintain the mound, they clean, they attend to the queen's every needs, which is actually not that much because she doesn't move. And one of the greatest mysteries, I'm not sure if it's been solved, is nobody knows. Once the queen gets too big for her royal cell, which she does, she gets absolutely grotesquely large and fat. How do they move her? The conundrum is, the workers can't lift her. She becomes so large, there's no way that the workers can actually lift her and transport her to a new cell. Do they sort of break down the wall and, do some construction work to the cell? Highly unlikely, but possible. There's also a theory, does that queen die and another queen take her place? And because this all happens deep in the mound in the royal cell, we're not able to see it. That's also possible and would make sense. But it's a bit of a conundrum. Once she gets so large and she outgrows her cell, she appears to then be seen in another cell. How does it happen? The mysteries of the termite world. Now, when the termites hatch from eggs, they become larvae, and they can either become workers or soldiers or the reproductives. How do they know? Is it genetics? How on earth does the sort of larvae get assigned to their role in the caste system? We call this a caste system. And it's a mixture of things. It's a mixture of some social cues, some environmental cues, but it's mainly the queen herself. Using her delightful pheromone-laden poop, she will assign the caste role of each larvae. So she will decide, you are going to become a worker, you are going to become a soldier, and you are going to be a future king or queen. So the division of labor really depends on the queen herself, and she uses her feces, which is lovely, containing lots and lots of pheromones to signal the development of the larvae into what role they will take. And it's a real divide in labour. You can't do it all. You've either got to be soldier, a worker, or a reproductive. So once these alates leave, they've got to search the market for a new home. They've got to bury into the ground and somehow start their own colony. And that's no easy task. Oh, I am just having the best time here. We may stay here a little bit longer, although I am covered in alates, but we're going to send you across to the cheetahs in Phinda.
Welcome back. I'm glad to hear that Lauren is having a fantastic evening. These males have actually gone up and walked a little bit further away from that carcass. And we spoke a bit earlier about how they wouldn't want to stay around it as it gets dark. And you can see that one at the back is taking his time to really thoroughly groom himself. I can imagine he's trying to get all those hard-to-reach places, get all that blood off from the carcass. Just busy cleaning his chest area. What's quite sweet is they'll actually groom each other as well at some point to try and get those little bits below the chin where their own tongues can't quite reach. You can see this one in the front is now grooming his front paw. Sorry about that. Oh, sweet. Maybe we might actually see this happen now. Oh, that is beautiful. There was a branch that just broke off to the left. I think it was more likely a branch that fell off the tree. So you could see them quickly change their behavior and quickly have a look. This is such a spectacular view. Both of them grooming each other as the sun starts to go down. That bird that just flew over calling, it's called a white-faced whistling duck. It's probably heading to some water for the evening. You can see the one is now carrying on a little bit further. I think he's trying to put a bit of more distance between him and this carcass. But the one that's still lying down is the one with the injury. And as you got up and walked, we did see he is still limping quite a bit. So I don't think they want to move too far. It's going to be difficult for this male to actually keep putting weight on that. So probably just find a little bit more of an open area that's a bit further away from the carcass and then settle down for the evening. See him looking back to see exactly where the other male's gone. It's possible that he actually lay off just outside of our view here. They don't seem to be in too much of a rush to leave this area. And the reason behind that is, because it is fairly open. So I don't think they're too concerned. You'll see very different if the cheetah managed to make a kill in like a really, really thick area. You can see that they're very nervous, eat very quickly, and are quite anxious to leave that area as soon as possible. You can hear all the insects starting to call now that it's starting to get a bit darker. Control. That's an interesting question about the collar. And yes, in fact, one of them did have a collar. We didn't collar both of them because we knew they would stick together as a coalition. But our policy is always for the first 3 months, once an animal is newly released into the reserve, we will actually keep track of them with that collar. And the reason behind that is, one, we have to monitor how they're doing, and two, as soon as they're removed from another reserve, like we said, these males came from Manyoni Reserve, so that's where their territory would be. And because they're so used to that being their territory, they would instinctually want to go back there. Coming into an open reserve with their sense of other cheetah, they know they're going to have to now take over a new territory. So you've got to break that bond in the beginning. That's why they spend quite a bit of time in the boma. One, to break that bond with their territory, and also to take the chance to test them for a variety of diseases. But there is always the chance that they instinctually want to go back, and that's why we collar them to monitor their movements, make sure we don't see them spending excessive amounts of time by the fence line or even outside the reserve. So that's why we will collar them in the beginning. But after that period, their collars are removed. And as you can see, we've got lovely collarless cheetah here. You can see even the position of this male. He's done it very cleverly again. The wind is blowing in from behind him. So he can get the scent of anything coming from behind. And then he's facing forward, just keeping a lookout in front of him, making sure there's nothing around him. Look at that big belly. I think the wind is actually swirling a little bit. So what we're going to do is leave these cheetahs. I think they have found a place that they're going to rest for the evening. And we are going to send you over to Andrew. He's going to spend a bit of time with a herd of impala out in the dark and just sit quietly and appreciate the sounds of the bush.
I'm still enjoying my termite wonderland. This mound is crawling, it's alive. It does give you the heebie-jeebies when you look from a distance, but when you look closer, it's just the termites. And what's remarkable, there are many different species of termites across the world, but all the sort of organisms that you're looking at right now are the one species. It's just a division of caste. So there's lots of sort of different appearances between the worker, the soldier, and the alates. But it's the same species. And they're all so busy. Look at the soldiers. They're remarkable. Now, most people think that termites are related to ants. And because they used to get called the white ant, especially the queen, she can look very white. Sometimes the soldiers can look very pigmentless. They are pigmentless. They were called the white ant, but that's led to a lot of confusion. They're actually not related to ants at all in any way, and they're in the cockroach family. They're very closely related to cockroaches. I'm sure many of you feel the way I feel about cockroaches, and that family is Blattodea. So they're not related to ants. In fact, ants are their worst enemies. They are really, really enemies, and they will attack one another. Ants will try to kill termites. It's not a good relationship, and there's no sort of relation in any way, shape or form. And when they're building their mounds, their territories, their cities, their fortresses, whatever you want to call them, there's no leader, there's no boss. There's no sort of blueprint that they're following for architecture or construction. It's all ingrained within them to work, build. And incredibly, they just create these magical mounds, and to us they just look like, well, not to offend you termites, but it just looks like a big lump of hardened soil to me. It doesn't look very special, but I can assure you on the inside it's very, very special. It's very precise. The temperature is completely controlled. Every element of the mound is controlled. The temperature is one of the most important parts. It's got ventilation for oxygen. It's got circulation for temperature. Incredible. Cooking bat? I'm not sure I got that correct, but, well, cooking bat. Sounds wonderful. I got it right. Perfect. You're asking, is it true? Fat. Oh, Jared said fat, like on your stomach. Jared, I can assure you I don't have any fat on my stomach. Okay, I apologise. Cooking fat. Sorry. Now, yes, it's true. That's a really, really great point and a great way to look at it. So instead of looking at it as a sort of divide, when I say division of labour, division's maybe not a good word. Although they are dividing up the labour, they do function as one organism. And I actually read out this quote last night, but I'll read it out again because it's great. Again, it's from this book. And they say that termites within the termitory can be thought of as one organism. And why? So it's obviously not fused together in like the human body, but some of the termites form the mouth and the digestive system. That's obviously your workers. Some of the termites take the place of weapons of defense, like claws or horns. That's obviously your soldiers. And some of the termites take the form of your reproductive, generative organs. And that's obviously the alates. So cooking fat, that's absolutely a perfect way to describe it. Instead of looking at it as a sort of separate units, look at it as one function organism. A unit, a collective. There's no individuality here. There's no sort of, it's all about being selfish, really. It's all about the collective. It's all about the colony, and that's so lovely. There's lots of articles out there bringing a little bit of a spiritual touch to termites, saying that they are more in tune to the world because they're very connected and all about each other. They will not harm one another. What a wonderful way to end a really good drive. I'm absolutely covered in alates here. I'll need to make sure they fly away. But first, I need to say thank you all for joining us. Thank you for jumping on board, all your comments and questions. And of course, we'll be out in the morning, so you must join us. Until then, good night.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to another drizzly day here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. It's still raining, but I have a good feeling for spots today. As we look out to the horizon, we see